Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Looks like you got a full ass cup of coffee.
I do. Yes,
It's the only way to start.
It's full.
Is that number 1 or number 2 on the day?
Number 1. I don't
Okay.
usually drink this much. I usually drink like a 1 16-ounce mug, and then I'm pretty much good for the whole day.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
And then nothing else.
No, I used to drink a lot of coffee, like when I actually had a retail job, but ever since then.
And when you had a coffee website?
No, 1 cup.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not crazy. Like I'm not like a caffeine addict or anything.
I like that you call yourself not crazy, because I think over the duration of this, we're going to just find all kinds of craziness hidden underneath that Patagonia vest.
And hat. Don't forget.
For the folks tuning in, because I honor the zero edit and we just roll where we roll, I'm clearly interviewing Matt Giovanisci.
Yes. That's I mean, you said it half like an Italian.
Okay.
So it's the ending.
Prego.
Yeah, the ending is she, I believe. Or
gotcha.
She, yeah. So.
All right. So in order to honor and not have you repeat your story for the 977th time, I'm going to do my best at like a 60-second introduction of your story. And you're obviously going to correct us and tell me where I got it wrong, but I'm just going to run with it. So
all right.
At the ripe young age of 11 years old, you somehow averted all child labor laws and got a job at like a hot tub swimming pool place. And from there, you kept seeing these old farts coming in and asking the same dumb questions over and over. And you're like, oh my gosh, I should probably create a library for this. And it was also when the web was young. So you're like, oh, I could learn coding too. That would be fun. So you built a website starting sometime way long ago that you'll clarify on swimming pools and hot tub stuff. Still running that today. Between there and now, you started a coffee website that you built and you sold. You are big into home brewing. So you have a home brewing website. Also, you have at least 3 YouTube channels. Then you started talking about investing and how you built it with MoneyLab.co. And you also sell courses from MoneyLab.co. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Matt Giovanisci.
Nailed it. I got nothing.
All right. 1 breath. Cool. So now that we got that out of the way, how's
awesome.
life?
Thank you.
What are you working on these days?
You know, it's so funny. Yesterday I was excited for this podcast or whatever you want to call it. Because it was like you when you approached me about it, I'm like, yes, I definitely want to do where we just talked, you know, like for a long time.
Yep.
And yesterday I was interviewed on a podcast. I was so excited. I was like, literally, I woke up in the morning and I'm like, I'm excited to be on this podcast because, and I've never said that in my life. I've been podcasting since 2006, and I've never said I can't wait to be on X podcast, only because it's a podcast that I've personally been listening to for 15 years. Out of like one of the 4 podcasts that I listen to, he was one of them. And it's Basic Brewing. It's a brewing podcast. But I went I went and approached him with this, like, I had built a brewery in my house. And I was like, hey, I did this thing. I made this video. I have this article. Do you think this would be a topic that would fit your show? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, sweet. And I was like, cool. I guess I'm coming on, and I don't have to prepare because I did it. So I was like, yeah. And I told him, like, I was like, dude, I mean, honestly, I've been listening to you for 15 years. You're a celebrity to me. You're an actual celebrity to me. And I know that you don't feel that way, but you are. And I don't really fanboy out on things like that. Like, I'm not a star fucker, or sorry. Has it been 30 seconds since?
Oh yeah, no, we're good. That kind of language. This is not for children on my YouTube channel. By any means.
I will try to keep it PG.
PG.
You know, no, PG.
PG. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I let it slip. Like, you know, I might get fired from SNL. It's my first year. Give me a break.
You're from Jersey. There's a default script that runs in there. And it's like it's been like 3 minutes without a curse word.
I know. I looked at the script before we got on this, and it said freaking, and I can't. My brain won't. So yeah, just was just super excited. So that was what I did yesterday.
Let's jump onto that a little bit because so you went on a podcast, but I want to rewind back, and I'll definitely link to this video because you put out your I built a brew pub, not a brew pub. You built a
home brewery.
A home brewery
is the key word.
There you go. You built a home brewery in 40 days, and it was vlog style, and it was a fantastic video, dude. Like to the point where wifey watched it, and she was like,
"Really?
This guy's good." Yeah, she like doesn't care about beer brewing at all. And
sure,
So you spent 40 days creating one piece of content. It was the first new piece of
Yes.
content on a YouTube channel, and you launched that thing out, and it clearly landed in crickets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a brand new channel and a brand new thing.
No one
But
cared.
then you did the work of like, how do I promote this great piece of content that I
Right.
made? Like, who
Right.
has the audience? And a lot of people, it's the shotgun approach, like just make content, make content, make content, make content. But when we spend a little bit of time distributing our content, like strategically, and I think you're probably going to be able to distribute and promote that piece of content for decades to come, because it's just that damn good.
Thank you.
God, man, like that's a big part of the game. And like, is
Sure.
this a new strategy? Because like, I know in the old school days when you were building the swim website, it was like, how quick can you pump out 500 word articles?
Yeah, and it goes against my sort of principles in online business of what I do, because I think, everyone used to say, if you build it, they will come. Except on the internet, where that doesn't work. You actually have to like draw people to it.
Field of Dreams destroyed a lot of people's understanding of reality.
Exactly. And so I was like, okay, I still kind of practice that, because I would put out content and just do it for the robots, and then the robots would find it, and then that would, so like, kind of, if you build it, they will come. And I just did a lot of work. Most of my effort. It's so funny because my friend texted me the other day, somebody who's not in online business, and he was like, dude, I cannot believe that you're ranking #1 for how to build a home brewery on Google. He's like, how the hell did you do that? I'm like, dude, this is what I've been doing for like 15, 20 years. Like, you're asking me like how I breathe in the morning. It's like, it's to me, I was actually surprised. I didn't know I was ranking #1 at the time, but I was like, look, I'm willing to bask in this glory that you're giving me, but let's be honest, it's a 3 difficulty and 50 people search that term a month. So I'm like, I'm not, it might look impressive. Like, for the longest time, I tried ranking for pool care, because I thought, oh my God, if I rank for pool care, I can say ranking #1 for pool care. I've learned that that's not a term people actually search for. So it's very easy to rank for that, but it's sort of this, like, it's a vanity metric, and I took it. I took the bask. I wanted the glory, but
you put in a bunch of work on that, and it's fun, because like, I think the other side of it is you're not sitting there clicking refresh on analytics. You're not like refreshing that page. Like, did I get #1 yet? Like, what do I do?
No.
Backlinks do I take to get there? You're kind of like, yeah, but at this point, you're like, I put out the content. I followed my personal process. That's probably very arbitrary. You probably don't have anything resembling a checklist. It's natural for you at this point in time. And then you hear from the outside in, like, oh, by the way, you're okay, cool, that works. All right, well, what's the next one on that?
The thing that I've been honing my skills for the last 20 years, like, paid off. It worked. Yeah. So it's like, and it's so funny because it's one of those things, like, he doesn't get it. You know what I mean? And it's like, when he sees it and it's like real, it's like, oh, I know what you do now. I'm like, yeah, see,
right.
That's what I do.
People see this event, this one that circulates, and then the 18 years. When did you start? When did you actually get that domain for SwimUniversity? When did you first kind of enter the World Wide Web as a creator?
Well, for that website, I bought it in 2004.
Okay. Did you have something before that?
Yeah, I ran so when I was in a band, we needed a website. I told this story.
Like, guys, I got you.
Yeah.
What was the band name?
I didn't even own a computer. I didn't own a computer until I was about to enter college. Like, we had like a family gateway computer where we played like games and stuff on it, but like nothing. I never like learned to type or anything. So I do now, just for the record. But the first domain name I ever bought was remembertomorrow.com.
Oh,
and
that was the name?
That was the name of the band. And it actually has a funny story, because I went on GoDaddy at the time. It was 2001, I think. And I typed in remembertomorrow.com. It's available. I clicked buy for $10, and I'm like, great. I own remembertomorrow.com, and I started building my Flash website. Because that's the only way I didn't know how to code. I just knew how to do animations. And so then I get a call, and I actually have the voicemail still. I got a call and a voicemail from a woman named, I'm going to call her Charmaine.
Yeah.
And
Let's respect her Charmaine's privacy.
yeah, she's a person. You can look her up. So she has a book called Remember Tomorrow, A Woman's Companion.
Okay.
And it was a book about foster parenting, I believe. And her message was so funny because she left a message. This is at my parents' house, like on an actual,
The
voice
tape recording,
tape recorder thing.
Yeah.
And I used a smaller tape recorder to record that tape, So she said, it was funny because she was like, my website master, my webmaster let the domain go and you bought it and like I need it back.
Pretty please.
She said she was freaking out though. And she said she was like, she spoke in front of Nelson Mandela, in front of the Dalai Lama. Like she kept like talking about how big of a deal she was and that she needed this domain back. And then she butchered she didn't even try my name. She's like, I'm looking for Matt Givina whoop. I don't know. And she just like whoops at the end. And then she screams in it. She starts like screaming. She goes, "Mah!" Like in the voicemail. And I called her back and I'm like, I bought this. I own this. I don't know how to give it back to you. And then my friends started getting into my head. They're like, dude, she speaks in front of the Dalai Lama and for dude, she's loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, so? And they're like, dude, you bought this domain fair and square. Like, charge her like 10 grand for it. I'm like, and I like felt wrong and I never did it, but I ended up just like building the website and said like, if you're looking for this book and this thing, like click here. She had a new domain and that's I don't know if that makes me a bad person, but that was what I was like 20, so
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that was my first domain I ever bought. I apparently stole it from someone. But then and then SwimUniversity was the second one, and that was.
Do you have a swimming pool at your house?
I did at the time I bought it. I had I had an above ground, a 28-foot round above ground pool. And I've been in the industry for so long that friends had pools, and I've worked on thousands of pools. I've seen
and you actually worked for like
size.
A pool retailer, like chemicals and selling. And
I worked for
hot tubs and stuff.
Yeah, I worked for a retailer at a super young age, and then when I was 16, I like went and worked for another bigger retailer, and had prior experience, which was weird for a 16-year-old to come into a job interview and they're like, you've done this for 3
5 years experience.
Like, yeah, it's like So I did that, and then from there I moved up to assistant manager of the store, and then I got poached by another company to go and run their entire store and service department. So I was in charge of like buying the merchandise for the store. It was just it was a really like a mom and pop store that I worked for. Like a husband and wife owned it. And then I did, I like changed all their POS systems because they were losing money because the wife kept stealing money from the register to just buy pizza or do whatever she wanted. And I was like, you can't do that. So I had to lock the drawers every night. Yeah. I had to lock the drawers. I had to come up with a whole system on how to like deposit it in the bank. And
that's awesome.
Yeah,
like
and
locking wifey out.
Yeah, well, she stopped working there because I basically like put the lockdown on the store and it wasn't fun for her anymore. And so and then I just took over like all the buying of the materials, like just beating people up over the phone, trying to get deals at like bulk, and best. So it was the best year he had ever had, the most money he had ever made that year because it wasn't disappearing. It was being deposited in the bank account every night. I had a regiment system. And then I was like, I hated working for him specifically because it just wasn't
personality stuff.
Yeah, it was a personality. We weren't the same people.
Where did that willingness to like work and hustle and like, I mean, you're 16 years old. Most people are fucking, maybe like trying to learn how to play acoustic guitar with the hopes of getting a girl someday. And here you are like job number 2 or 3, like running the show better than like adults can at the point in time.
I had that dream too.
Yeah, well, you're quite the guitarist in your
Yeah.
home brewing video. I
Uh-huh.
loved the fact that you broke down to an acoustic guitar montage.
Yep. And I didn't really play it in the video, but I did really play it in the song.
That's how music videos work. We get
That's
that.
how they
It's
work,
the
yeah.
magic of YouTube. But like, where
And
did that come from, man? Where did your like willingness to, like, I don't know, forego some years of later teenness to work? Like, did you just realize, like, I got to figure out this money game, so I might as well just get started? Like, parents ain't paying for everything.
Yeah, my parents have good work ethic. They're both workers, and they're both loyal to their employers. And I am the same way. Like when I was working for someone, I was loyal. I like naturally always became right hand man. You know what I mean?
Treated it like your own business.
Probably, right.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I took pride in it. Like even when I was 13, like making sure the store was stocked and all the shelves looked good was a point of pride. You know, it was like a game. And before that, I remember, I sold pencils in 5th grade because I used to play that snapping pencil game.
Oh yeah.
I sold pencils. I did porn. I didn't do porn. I sold porn. In early high school, my friend had a computer, and he was like, I didn't have a computer, so he was like, I can get naked pictures of Pamela Anderson and other Baywatch stars, and so he was like, let's sell this. And I was like, what do you do? He's like, I don't know, like we'll ask for $1 or $5 from students and give them a link that they can like go and see these like this like little makeshift website we put up. So that was more of a partnership. I didn't come up with that idea on my
joint
own.
venture.
Yeah. And then he also sold and I did this with him too. You know how like Columbia House used to sell CDs where you would like pay $1 and get like yeah. So we would
BMG also.
Yeah, we would just keep signing up for those and like getting the CDs for like super cheap and then selling them at retail prices to our to our friends. And then I did fireworks. I was my friend's dad would drive us down to south of the border, which is between North Carolina and South Carolina, and it's a little rest stop where they have a bunch of fireworks stores, go-kart tracks. Just it's really like it's a I don't know if it's still there. I'm sure it's still there. It's probably very sad. Or very fun. I have depending
were fireworks. Were they illegal in Jersey?
They were illegal in New Jersey.
Perfect.
Yeah,
so you crossed borders.
Yeah.
And you were doing some like cross-border illegal hustles.
Yeah, I used to buy Black Cat, like those firecrackers at the PAX.
Oh yeah.
And then what I would do, my dad gave me this old briefcase, and I lined it top and bottom with Black Cats, so that I would go around the neighborhood to kids, and I would open up the briefcase and be full of them, and then they were 50 cents each.
I bet you felt so cool.
It was awesome. Yeah.
Click,
I was like,
click, pop.
I was trying to buy a stainless steel one with a handcuffs.
Oh yeah.
But
the James Bond
special. I couldn't find a stainless steel briefcase at the time.
How old were you in that phase? What age are we talking at this point?
Probably six, probably middle school.
Got it. So 12, 13, right? Before the pool.
Yeah, you're right. I think I just always had whatever that, I know Gary Vaynerchuk talks about like the hustle when he was a kid and stuff. I don't think I had that. Like I wasn't like actually making real money, like good money. Like I wasn't, thriving in any way, but I always had my own money.
Yep.
I really never borrowed money from my parents, I guess, until, before I was 11, 13 or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that has to come from my parents.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of science. I think it's called epigenetics, and it's up until the age of 6, whoever you're around, whatever they're telling you, it literally like programs and pre-wires the brain. So we're all kind of like operating subconscious patterns based on what was programmed then, and it totally sounds like something around, and maybe family, like siblings can have a big part in it too, and even like friends and stuff. Do you think people can learn that? Like, is that because like clearly looking at your video you just put out on the how to start a brew home brewery in 40 days, like the pride of craftsmanship at every level, from the cuts and the edits and taking time to document the process to the final product. Like what you built is actually like magnificent when it comes to homebrew. Like you're on a level, people are going to look at your homebrew setup and be like, oh my God, someday I want one that's like that. Yeah. So I feel like that's that same pattern playing out today.
Yeah.
essentially. Can people learn that? Can people who like, is that why you've been so successful in business? Because you're one of those people, I don't feel like, you don't trip out over backlinks, you don't
Mm-mm.
fret the little stuff. You've just been doing what needs to get done for long periods of time without thinking or questioning things too much, and you're creating massive value for lots of people. You're creating a wonderful life for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
can we teach other people to do that? Is there a switch that people can flip? Have you ever seen somebody go who didn't have that turned it on and
I've
said,
seen
"F it"?
I had a conversation with Steph the other day about some friends that I have who that has happened to, where I would never consider that. I mean, maybe not entrepreneurial in the sense of like where they are the boss and they own their own business sort of thing.
Yep.
Um, but I do have friends who like personal friends that I grew up with who have switched to my style, I guess. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Like I have a friend who was a school teacher, like a real, at a high school, taught, a history, and then decided, no, I don't want to do that. I want to travel the world. I want to be location independent. And I didn't push him at all. I had nothing. The only thing I did was I hooked him up with somebody because he's a really good writer, and I hooked him up with somebody who needed writing skills, and they still work together. And he's free. He's not a teacher anymore, and he does whatever he wants, and that's his thing. Uh, I'd never, I would not call him entrepreneurial
Yep.
in the traditional sense because he never expressed any desire to do that. I think he likes working for other people and he likes freedom, and so yeah, he just pursued it. He just like something happened. I don't know.
So the goal, the dream of like, I am done with these punk ass
Yeah.
16-year-old kids. Like, I want to go travel. I want to get out of I want to go do something different or wherever they were. That was the motivation enough to kind of get to that next level. I think another thing that gets passed over these days too much is like how important it is for business owners to have like right-hand people. And in
Yeah.
some sense today, you can be like a chief operations officer, you can be a writer, and technically you're an entrepreneur, but really you're kind of just like a 1099 contractor. But like,
Mhm.
not everyone is cut out to be the entrepreneur. But in that same framework, I've got like an SEO guy full-time. I've got writers. I've got a
Yeah,
paper
they're
guy.
like entrepreneurs in their own right, like
Yeah,
they kind of act independently. They don't
but they're not
need
creating products. They're not creating the
no,
brand. They're
no.
taking the vision from the entrepreneur and running with it. And
Right. Well, they have a certain skill set that may not be product creation or, SEO or anything like that. They might have like writing. You could be a great writer and just not, never kind of cross over into the world of SEO, and that's completely fine.
yeah.
But you're still valuable to SEO people who run their own websites. And so, I don't know if it can be taught. I think it has to be there has to be enough motivation.
It's the why.
And it's such a hard thing, it's like one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is the pandemic. So the pandemic hit, uh, and everyone was forced to stay home, and you were kind of forced to reckon with the shit you own. And I heard Dave Chappelle say this on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I'm not a Joe Rogan listener, but Dave Chappelle,
Yeah.
I am a Dave Chappelle listener, and so he was on. I was like, oh my god. But he had brought this up, and I was like, whoa, that is fascinating. Which is this idea that like you better be cool with all the shit you collected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a
Because you've
lot
got to
of
spend a
people,
lot of time with it.
right? And I think a lot of people sat down, had a like put the brakes on, the hustle and bustle, and everyone got to look around at like the shit they own, and the people that they're with, the people they spend their time with, and a lot of people made changes. I mean,
100%.
you saw people move, you saw
Mhm.
people change jobs, like during a pandemic, like quitting or
Yep.
like changing complete, and the motivation was there all of a sudden because they were just kind of moving and moving and moving and moving and doing what they had to do to survive. But then they didn't have to worry as much because they were stuck home.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, I hate this. I hate
Yeah.
living in New York City. This sucks.
Yeah.
I can't I can't do anything. I can't go anywhere. What I really want is space. What I really want is like not to work for this asshole anymore and go over and do my own thing or whatever it was. And that motivation existed. And I think for me, my motivations change all the time. I am not as hungry anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have that fire that I had when I first quit my job and I was like, I'm going to make this my thing. I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
I'm going to suffer to get it to where I need to go.
18-hour days, 7 days a week if I have to. I ain't even tripping. Like, bring it.
No. I mean, I was glued to my computer, and just trying everything. I didn't, learning from every little facet of the internet I could possibly learn from. Like it wasn't just one person who I like blindly followed in the great unknown. I would take a little bit of this guy, a little bit of that person, a little bit of this girl, and be like, mix them all together and go, is this me? Is this what I want to do? And does that feel right? Is this the way I want to go? And it was, when you try things, you screw up, and then you try other things and you screw up. But then the whole time I'm like, well, yeah, I might not make money this month, but I'll make money next month. And I just had a blind optimism of, and my mom used to say, like, when are you going to get a real job? And it's like, I have a real job. It's, in the beginning, it wasn't ideal because I was building SwimUniversity on the side. Like, I had a real job building SwimUniversity on the side. And unfortunately, my real job was doing marketing for a pool company. And so then I would come home and the last thing I wanted to do was talk about pools more. Right. To the point where I actually got fired from my original pool job because of SwimUniversity, because I had built it. He looked at it that way. I kind of looked at it as like, dude, why don't you buy me out? Like, this was the perfect, I was so young. Why don't you, and the only reason he found out, all right, so I'll tell a little story. I don't know if I don't know if I've told this about a lot, but and maybe it's whatever. But I was working at a pool company doing marketing. So I was a computer guy at a corporate office, and I was running the marketing for 4 stores. And I was doing print, advertising. I was filming television commercials at one point. I was doing radio ads. I was doing yellow pages. I couldn't stop him from doing yellow pages. He just wanted to do yellow pages.
Just throw more A's in front of your name and you go to the top. That's right, yellow pages optimization.
Yep. So I was like, I did all that stuff, and I would go home and I would work on SwimUniversity part-time, like very, very part-time. This is when I sucked at writing. This is when I was like, getting people to write 300-word articles or writing 300-word articles about the same thing over and over and over again, switching sentences around, moving words around, and kind of like creating content in the worst possible way. And I always put my author name on all the articles I wrote on my website as Matthew Stevens, because Steven is my middle name. I didn't want my name to be out there because I guess this little twinge of whatever is like, feels like a conflict of interest, even though at no point in time did because I'm a moral person, did I ever find it okay with myself to work on SwimUniversity at work. I need to make that so clear, because that's why I was fired, because people thought I was stealing time and resources from the company for this website.
Right.
That could not have been further from the truth. And so my surname or my pen name was Matthew Stevens, until I got a call from Martha Stewart Living Radio, Sirius XM, and they were like, "We love your site. Would you come on and do a segment about opening your pool?" And I was like, I've made it. This is it. This is my big break.
Yeah.
And what I did was I decided, well, I don't want to be known in the world as Matthew Stevens. I want my name out there. I want to be me. I want to be honest with and true to myself. As much as I hate my last name, I just like, whatever, it's mine. And no one else has it. So I was like, okay, yes, I am Matthew Giovanisci. I'm sticking my name on this website. Who cares? I've made it. It's over. And I took off of work that day because it was 7 a.m. in the morning. I had to get up and get on the phone, and I'm like, I have to man the station and man Google Analytics, because shit is gonna crash. Like, it's gonna blow up from all the traffic that's gonna come into my website. It's gonna game over, guys. This might be my last day at real work. And of course, you know what happens. I do the interview. It's live, 7 a.m. in the morning. It's 30 minutes long. I'm nervous. I'm on a telephone, a corded phone. I actually had to specifically, it needed to be on a cord. And I finished the interview and I put down the phone and I run to the computer and like no traffic whatsoever. Like nothing happened, like nothing all day. And I was like, oh, all right. Well, now I didn't make it. This wasn't the game changer I thought it was going to be. And so I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go back to work, I guess. And I went back to work, but now my website says my name on it and I didn't change it back. But I got invited 3 more times to be on the show again, in the future. And then one day I was fired because my boss Googled me and found SwimUniversity and then he put a software on my computer because I was the only person in the whole office who had my own dedicated computer. Everybody else was part of the intranet. They all had my boss could go into anyone's computer and just look at what they were doing, and he did that quite frequently. But for me, I had my own tower. I had my own computer because I was doing video. I was doing work that and my boss never. I was always productive, so he never really looked over my shoulder. But if he did, I would always have code up on the screen because that works. But it's because that's what I was doing, but it's also confusing. But sometimes I was a bachelor, I was living by myself and I needed food and I would look at food blogs and I would look at, recipes and I would, print them out when I got home, but I would find them and store them in whatever, thing. And I got shit for that. He's like, you're busy on food blogs all the time. I'm like, okay, it's not porn. It's not what do you?
It's lunch, dude.
Yeah, it's lunch. What are you talking about? That's the most nominal thing you could, But yeah, he actually said to me when he fired me, he was like, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. He literally said that phrase to me. And I was like,
Dad.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I have another. And at the time he fired me, I had another job offer, which is why I was like, I just sat there and just shocked because I'm like, in my head, I'm like,
how long did you juggle jobs and the website for? How long was that total run, give or take?
So I left in 2011.
And so you started the site in 04.
In 04. No, I bought the site in 04, bought the domain name, and that's what you asked me.
Yep.
I sat on it for a year without doing anything, bragging that I was going to do something.
Oh, yeah.
And then never doing it. And then my friend, kind of challenged me. He was like, dude, you keep talking about this friggin' website. When are you going to build it? And I was like, all right, I'm going to build it. And then I lost the domain name to somebody else, and I had to buy it back for $100 instead of $10. So I bought it. So I bought SwimUniversity and SwimU.com back for $100 a year later. And then in 2006, in 2005, 2006 is when I put up the first .html page. I wasn't even using
the index
WordPress
page.
Yeah, the index.html page.
Yeah.
And then all my articles were
Most listeners won't even know what an index.html page is.
No.
The old school of dealing with it in Notepad and fucking Dreamweaver and front page or whatever.
That's what I use. I use Dreamweaver. All of my articles were individual HTML pages that I had to design. And if I changed the logo or the header, I had to go and update it on every single page. And you learn over time and you fix it. But so 2006 is when I sort of credit it as all
right. So even if it started in 06 and you officially escaped in 2011, even if we got the tail end of 06 and the early part, we're talking a minimum of 4.5 years, 5 years of doing the work at the day job to pay for life, to just do, and dealing with the ups and downs and job shifts, etc., and building it on the side. While taking what I would call the hard way around it, because thank God for WordPress today that you can just you can completely change your website in the whole theme, the whole look, the whole stylization. I never, in my early days of trying to learn to code, I never really got competent with Dreamweaver to the point where I was consistently publishing. Literally the tech was my big challenge. And when a friend built our first WordPress website for us, it was wait a minute, I can just go in and create new, there was 4 things you have to learn in WordPress. It was holy crap, this is magical. 5 years of day job. And I feel so many people today are they see where you're at, they see your income reports, which I don't think you actually technically do income reports, but you've been very transparent in what, like, it's pretty easy to see how much money you do talk about certain levels of your business.
You could do some reverse engineering to find out.
You know, and it's tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of dollars per month type thing. And they somehow think that it's like, oh, okay, so COVID just hit, so I'm locked down. Cool, I'm just gonna do that affiliate marketing thing, and within the next few months, I'll be at their level, and I'll be generating 30 grand a month or 40 grand a month. And it's like, wow, like where is this perspective coming from? Because like for, you know, I've failed 7 years straight before. It took me literally 7 years of like start and stop, trial and error, a little bit of money, no money, new job, different jobs, start, stop, something else. And finally, after 7 years,
that's mine
full time.
That's my same story. For me, it was 7 years of SwimUniversity and I'll be honest, there was a lot of not trying in the early days. Like there were bouts of hardcore trying, and then there were other areas of like,
well, and that's your personality.
Yeah,
right. Like, so you did, and for people who don't know, like you did a rap album at one point, and you did it in like 30 days, like an entire rap album. And even your homebrew setup is like, I'm going to do this. Well, I'm just going to ignore every other aspect of my life and be like intense on this for 40 days.
Yeah.
And in one sense there, you know, it could be argued that it's, you know,
burnout city.
Yeah. It's maybe an unhealthy approach to things, but you get shit done. And you get shit done with a frequency that like, boom, okay, it's done. Then you probably have like a week or two of recovery after stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm still figuring that out. But yes, that is essentially like why MoneyLab, when I was 4 years old now or 5 years old, that was the entire premise around that website, which is, this is how I work. I work in these like really intense focused sprints. I've always been that way. And so I'm just going to like, that is the content. Like, you know, I'm going to do it. So it's going to be like, I'm not going to be publishing a new blog post every week. That's not how I roll. But when I do publish a blog post, I'll have been working on it for like 2 to 3 weeks prior, or even a week prior, 100% of the time. Like I can't, like when I'm sleeping, I'm coming up with ideas. When I'm, you know, in the shower, when I'm doing whatever, brewing, it's all, you know, my entire life and it kind of suffers in other areas because of how focused I am. I'm kind of a zombie for most of that time. Or I just can't, you know, like somebody will be like, yo, this happened. I'm like, I can't.
Yep.
I need to do this thing.
For that.
No bandwidth.
And what you put out through MoneyLab, which is kind of circling back to something we talked about earlier, like you put out these really big, important pieces that deserve being marketed over and over and over for the rest of your life, right? Like distributing and publishing the content. So one of your posts that hit me was your lifestyle business manifesto, I think it was called. And you even said a little bit ago that you're kind of like, you're easing up a little bit. You're kind of like, like everyone else is during the lockdowns, you're analyzing, where am I putting this energy into? But I think it's even bigger picture for you of like, you've kind of declared that you're not going to follow through on a couple of like, you're like, I'm going to let this podcast go. I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna keep YouTube going over here and here. I'm gonna keep SwimUniversity. I think you let go of a couple of people, a couple of teammates, or they
not on my, I didn't let them go. They let themselves go or to do what I do, you know, they want to do what I do. And that's like, and I'm very,
which is it's a compliment to you. It's, you
so
know, you
I encourage them.
Yep.
I literally, to this day, if somebody that I used to work with, you know, asked me, you know, I will help them to put them in touch with somebody or do whatever. Even when they were working for me, I never considered anybody who worked for me exclusive. I never got mad when someone was like, I got this other contract. I'm like, you work for me. Like, you know, I've never had an actual employee. If you want to go do something else, please. Yeah. I will give you the resources. Go do 100%. It. I mean, that's how
I'll coach you along the way.
Yeah. Like, you know,
my SEO guy, I almost require him to have a side project. Like I was like, you need a project that's eventually going to get you to fire me, because like at some point I'm just going to be, you know, fucking gardening all day and paddleboarding and like we need to make sure that this is built in some way. And the coaching, I think it helps for people to have ownership of something. So like in that idea, do you feel like a byproduct of this is like you've created so much momentum with the last I don't know, 16 years or so, 15 years or so of work, the intense amount of hustle, like you went so over the top with the amount of effort and energy and what you've created. Now you have so many rankings and so much traffic, and your cash flow is so freaking stable.
Yeah.
And you've been really
Yeah.
intelligent with your money on the investing. Like you've
Yeah.
played kind of your mustachian in some senses. You like a little bit of frugality, a lot of intelligence with where you put your money. And now it's kind of like, at what point am I just hustling to hustle to make more money? Like, at what point is it just awkwardly greedy? And
Yeah.
at what point is it just enjoying life?
I watched Trading Places last night for like the millionth time. It's like one of my favorite movies of all
Is
time.
it really? Is that the
Yeah.
one with Eddie Murphy?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I would download that. All right.
Yeah.
And what's the, keep going.
So they say the two rich guys and the two
Is Dan Aykroyd one of them?
Yeah.
It is Dan
But
Aykroyd.
the two protagonists in the movie, the Duke brothers, Duke and Duke, they have this bet going, and the whole idea, they keep saying like money isn't everything, Mortimer, and it's like they keep like using it, and that's sort of the central thesis of the entire like movie. And then what's interesting about that is like they're old ass men. They're two, and I know this is a movie, it's not real life, but come on, we know people they exist, they are in power. Two old ass men who are still like cheating and gaming to make more money. They have all the money. They are the richest people they know. Like they are the top of their entire game in this movie. And yet somehow they still have that greedy, like, I need to make 300 million on this one, commodities exchange, in this one antithetical moment of the movie. And it's like, why? You're done. You're old. Fucking do something else. Like,
go play shuffleboard, asshole.
Yeah, go be. Dude, if I had a limo, I would just sit in the back all the time eating cheese pizzas like that and go into toy stores. Like, that's what I would do. Like, you made it. I don't, and that's the thing. Like, I've going all the way back. Yes, I always wanted money, but I always like working. I like being productive. I'm a productive person. I enjoy it. It can be doing dishes. I don't care. I don't need to make money at it. I like just having things to do. What I don't like doing is what I call false productivity. Video games to me are false productivity. And I'm not shitting on video games. I totally wish I was into video games, but I can't enjoy it because in 5 minutes, I'm like, I'm bored. I'm not, I don't care about this.
There's nothing productive going on
here.
There's
nothing productive. Like, I can't, I'm not building something. I'm making progress in a thing that I know that, like, I can hit pause and, like, then if I can stop. And then if I don't do anything, there's no consequence. I could just stop doing it. And so I think, and I guess I don't have fun, it's like in real life, like if somebody's like, oh, I don't go on vacation because I never felt I needed to. I never felt like so overworked and like, it's the weekend. I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. Like, I'm just going to like sit on the beach, read a book,
drown myself in margaritas.
Yeah. I never had that. I was just like, no, I want to go, like, if we're going to do something, like, let's go do a project over the weekend. Like, that's relaxing to me.
Let's go make a hip hop album.
Yeah, seriously, like sometimes, like on a Saturday, I'm like sitting there watching TV. I'm like, I'm gonna go make music or do something like semi-productive in some way. But I guess my point is that at one point in my life, I actually ended up realizing that none of what I was doing was for money. Like, there were money goals, and I needed to make money to survive in this world. But then once I passed the $100,000 a year business revenue mark.
Yep.
That was a mark. I literally had a whiteboard with a thermometer that I drew, and that was the number to me. Yep. That was the number.
Yep.
And I hit it, pretty easily that 1 year. And I was like, now what's the next number? What's the bigger, fatter thermometer? Yep. And I was like, is it 1 million? Because I don't care.
Yeah.
I made enough money. I made more money that year, just visually, $100,000 than anyone I have ever met and knew. So to me, like my parents, nowadays they're making that money, but like back then that's they were high, they were middle class for sure, but like to me, $100,000 was a rich person. If you were making
Totally.
$100,000 a year, you are a rich person. Where I grew up, and so that was it. I hit that goal, and I was like, oh. And it took me a long time to get there. It took me 10 years to get there. And now that I'm there, it's like I just want to stay there. I don't want to lose it, because that's definitely motivation. Losing it is bad.
Right.
But I have such a comfortable lead now that losing it it doesn't freak me out. Like when Amazon, slashed everybody's commissions this year, I didn't lose. I mean, I was mad because I was like, dude, it's COVID. What are you doing? Like, this is awful for not just me, but for everybody who relies on this income. And like, you definitely didn't need to do this. This definitely wasn't the right time, but whatever. They're Amazon, and just whatever you think is evil, that's what they do. They do evil. So it's,
so expect it, and you won't be surprised by it. And it'll just be like, oh, okay. Well, of course they did that.
Of course. Like if like they're doing pharmacy now. So like if they ship cyanide pills instead of aspirin, like just know it's Amazon.
Par for the course.
That's what they do. And they're evil. So, So I think there's a point now where I'm like, well, what is more money going to buy? I don't have that many. Again, I'm not like a video gamer. I don't have like.
Well, a few things have changed in your life. So you moved to Boulder, Colorado, which is a very expensive place. It's a very beautiful place with incredible lifestyle. And there's like some really fucking cool people there too. So like that, I would call that lifestyle creep. Like, I don't know how expensive Jersey was, but I'm assuming life in Boulder is next level more expensive.
Yes, but it wasn't, it was funny because our first apartment was $100 more than what I was paying for my condo in Jersey. And it was the same number of bedrooms and stuff. So like, it was an apartment. I didn't own it. Yeah. And obviously I bought my condo in 2008. So like I was paying more than the average person for my size home.
Nailed that peak.
Yeah. Not always good with money. Timing is something you can't really control, but there was like, when I got there, when I got to Boulder, I was like, I was shocked by how not much more it was. But then when I started looking at houses, then I was like, oh, that's where it all goes. Okay.
Yep.
And then I had friends that moved in next door to us, and they moved from San Francisco.
And they were like, oh, this is cheap.
And exactly. Yep. So we had like, I was thinking, houses are like $150,000, $200,000. And they're like, no, houses are $1 million plus, like your base level house. So like we had very disparate views of like how much houses should be worth because we lived in totally different areas. And so, and I feel like Boulder was the middle. So I didn't feel like I went from like, New Jersey to San Francisco, which would have blown my mind grapes.
$3,600 a month for a one bedroom.
Yeah. No. But the reason I moved to Boulder, that was such a weird, I lived in Jersey my whole life, and I say Philadelphia because like I spent most of my time in Philadelphia, because everyone's like, you're from Jersey. Oh, they think Jersey Shore. They think New York. They think the North, the accent.
Greasy.
Yeah.
That whole side.
Guido Beach is a real thing, Like, it's There you go. And I'm Italian, so it's just like, of course,
fits. Totally.
You're that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm from South of Jersey, which is very far away. It's 2 hours from New York, so it takes a while to get to New York. And the closest city to me was Philadelphia. It was only 20 minutes away. And that's where my parents are from. They have their accent, and it's very like Italian too, but it's a different culture. Totally. And then we had Atlantic City, which was 40 minutes away. So we were like right between the two cities. So those are my two cities.
Got it.
And I brought that up because I was like, when I had never flown on a plane until I was 21, and I hate flying. I was always afraid of it. But I had a friend I worked with who decided to move to Steamboat Springs in Colorado to go to basically snowboard, be a ski bum, and then go to school. And so as soon as he got out there, he was like, hey, why don't you and your friends come out and just like stay at my place? And I was like, okay. Oh man, I gotta get on a plane, but I wanted to because I love snowboarding. And I was like, that forced me. Like my senior class trip to Disney World, I don't care. But snowboarding in Steamboat in Colorado, I didn't even mean Steamboat. I didn't even know Steamboat. But snowboarding in Colorado was like, oh, I want to do that. And so I did that. And that was it. I was like, this is where I belong. I don't know why, but I got there and I'm like, I belong here.
A lot of East Coast heads land in Denver. And I think it's like there's some genetics from the wagon trains. They're like, we're going to San Francisco. And then all of a sudden they get to Colorado. They look at the mountains. They're like, nope, I'm staying here. Like, I'm staying far enough. Like, this is cool. There's a lot to do.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's a lot of East Coast heads there. There's a lot of California heads in Colorado too. True. It really is kind of a blend of both sides of the country. And the native Colorado people they just hate everyone. They're just like, go away. You're ruining your place.
I think you're either like a beach or ocean. You're like a water, like a wave person. Because I want to be distinct, like you're either that or you're mountain, right? And
I think there's city people. I think you have to throw on the Manhattan.
Oh, there are city, sure,
right?
Sure.
Urban. Like I have to be urban. I need a nightlife till 5 a.m. type person as well. And I'm like,
and I hated that. I hated we would always go to Philly to party at night, but I always definitely not my thing. Like definitely not walking around the city at night, and no, especially in the summer. God, no, thank you. So I spent a lot of time down the shore, which was South Jersey, Wildwood, as opposed to whatever's north. I actually have no idea. Where's Jersey? Oh, Tom's River? Where's Jersey Shore? Anyway, so yeah, I would when I came to Colorado, I was like, well, I belong here. Because my favorite vacation even was the Poconos. That's where, that's my favorite vacation spot. Tall jacuzzi tubs that look like, champagne glasses. They call them fuck tubs.
Wonder where they get that name from.
Yeah, look it up. Like sex hotels. So basically,
Soak and poke.
Yes, that's the Poconos. Yeah,
gotcha. Good to know.
But yeah, I always loved those vacations in the winter, and so I just felt like I'm just a winter guy. Yeah. I like the mountains, and then when I got here, I was like, oh my god, yeah. And then I didn't really know anything about Boulder. Boulder wasn't a part of my things that I wasn't familiar with it, but I knew
the brand wasn't on your radar.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, Portland was, and I knew Austin was a thing, and Boulder I'd heard a lot about, but didn't really look into it. But I had a friend that I had met, in my entrepreneurial days, and he lived in Boulder, but he was from Philly, and he was like, "Why don't you come out?" So I decided, when I met Steph on our first date, she was like, "I want to move to Colorado one day," and I was like, "I want to move to okay, yeah, we're getting married. Done." So
sold.
Yeah, and then a year later, we both were like, "Yeah, let's go." And we went to Boulder for a month just to check it out. We just rented an Airbnb for a month, and we're like, we're gonna see if we like this. And of course, I was like, "Yeah, I love it." And yeah, so we moved here, and then we lived in Boulder for 4 or 5 years, doing rent, living downtown. And then I've always just wanted a house, and so always wanted a house with a yard, deck. My dream as an entrepreneur, and forever, I guess it doesn't matter if I was an entrepreneur or not, because I've had this dream for my whole life. And I actually haven't even done it in this house yet, believe it or not, even though I can do it. My dream, I had a visual. So again, I don't think it's a money thing. I don't think my aspirations were money driven. It was I want to be able to walk out on a deck when it's cold with a cup of coffee and look at mountains, snow mountains. Yeah. That was it. I can do that now. And I could do that on vacation. That's where I got the dream, because I would go to the Poconos, and I would go, I had one house had a deck, and you're looking at the mountains are small there, but you look at the mountains and it's snowing. You're like, this is great.
More of this in the life. More days, more mornings like this.
Yeah. How is this not what I want always? Yep. So I was like, well, how do I get that? It's like, well, first I got to go to where there's mountains,
yep.
And then, the rest is history. But, it's not really a businessy thing. It's more of like a lifestyle choice.
Well, but this money is not a thing, and it ties into your lifestyle business manifesto. And money is a tool, right? And it's
Money is definitely a tool.
It's a tool. And without it, like there's levels of discomfort that can be avoided by having certain amounts of it. But then at a point, one study I've read, I think it said like around $75,000 a year.
Yeah.
Once you get over 75K a year, the quality of life stops going up. But yet it's interesting because a lot of people at that level, they want it becomes more and more important to them. And it actually like seems to hinder the quality of life because all of a sudden they're like if a little is good, more is better. If more is better, I'm the next billionaire. And like very few people take time to look at, like, if you look at the data around billionaires, higher divorce rates, being a billionaire actually kind of has these extra challenges in life that to me, when I look at the data, is like that's horrible. Like, why would anyone go out of the way and have a triple the percentage of potential of divorce and like losing half of it and just all of the annoyances with that? And yet I have so many friends in the internet world who are like, billionaire in the making. Like, I'm going to be a three comma
club.
Yeah. Like, really? Like, well, you don't even know. And I feel like you have a clear because we all have that. There's moments when it's like, well, I could launch all of this and do more. But then I feel like you have some sort of an internal mechanism that's like, wait a minute, but like, all I really want is to just brew my beer, to sit on my back deck and enjoy my hot cocoa in the snow. And like, I don't need much more than X, Y, Z. But I would like to kind of like translate this a little bit over, and I'm going to call it the mustachian side of things. And for everybody listening, that's a reference to Mr. Money Mustache, who I think you're kind of like, him personally, potentially at this point. He's in your areas in Longmont. So the idea, when I reference mustachian for the listeners, you obviously get this. It's live frugally and save, like really increase the amount of money you can save, which is A, spend less, and B, earn more. And then from there, it's invest it all really, really intelligently and he's really big on index funds and the 4% withdrawal rate, blah, blah, blah. But you're essentially able to set yourself up for early retirement. And if you spend very little and you save a lot and you put it all in the right investment vehicles, you can kind of unlock yourself from needing to go back to that feeder bar, the biweekly paycheck, the day job, the commute that everybody hates. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he exited his software engineering job in his late 30s, give or take. Maybe 40.
He's been retired, quote unquote, for very many years.
Yeah. And yet he has a blog, he has a co-working space. So what he did is he kind of like just exited the trade time for money world because he built a nest egg intelligently, and now he's deploying it and playing with other things. And I'm pretty sure he's making a whole lot more now than he was then.
Yeah. But I can tell you he still lives like he's in his mid 30s.
Frugal.
Like,
is that what you're getting at when you say that?
Yeah, he definitely walks the walk.
Extreme frugality. He takes it to an extreme level. And so I think for the listeners, I'd like to just kind of get your take on this whole world. So like, at what point did the thought of like, so some of the ideas that I'd like you to touch on would be like emergency fund. Like, when did you start to think, and then like investing and putting it away, and then the whole like retire early stuff. Like, where did that come onto your scene? When and where? And because I know you're into that now, and I'd like to, because I think for a lot of my listeners, this is the actual thing that unlocks lifestyle freedom for the rest of their lives. And most of my listeners don't even know about this world because they're so focused on cash flow, fire my boss right now. And it's like, okay, that's one thing, but if lifestyle creep takes all that extra money you're earning, you're always going to be on the treadmill.
Yes, I will say, okay, that last thing you just said, I'm worried about this house. So we bought this house. Okay. It is more house than we need, and I'm worried that I'm just going to fill it.
Hoarder.
But I'm self-aware enough to understand that I have that. I know that, right? I just said it, and so I won't, right? Hopefully, but I'm conscious of the fact that like right now it's pretty minimal in the basement.
How many square feet you got?
The whole house is like 4,000.
Okay, we got 3,500 up north.
But
you're on acreage too, right? So you have space.
One acre. Yeah.
So like, and there is a weird to give you a little dose of justification. There is a house size to land size correlation. It's rare to find a 1 acre with a 2,500 square foot house on it. They seem to just build big houses on big lots. So I got 20 acres up there, and it was like, I really just want like 2,200 square feet, but it's freaking ginormous. And there's two of us. I got 4 toilets.
What's the law? Parkinson's? Where like you will fill the space that
fill
you
the time that you allot. So if you give yourself a week for a project, it's going to take a week. If you give yourself a day, it'll take a day. Yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's like the anti-MoneyLab, right? It's like that's exactly what I do. It's like, oh, I got to make a course. You have 7 days.
Yep.
Like,
Deadlines are powerful.
What don't you have to do is really like that's so. Yeah, let's talk about the investing stuff, but it's really all about what I don't want to do.
Yep.
Like I try to eliminate. I like optimize. I'm an optimizer, right? I'm not a grower. I'm an optimizer. So I build a thing and then I optimize it to death. So, and that goes with everything. That goes with money. That goes with the house. That goes with business. That goes with writing. Like literally writing a blog post. I will spew out 5,000 words, 10,000 words, but then I will spend more time optimizing that post so that those 10,000 words or the impact of those 10,000 words can be read in 2,500 words.
Right.
Right. So it's like every sentence, and it's like I just tweeted about this because it's like every sentence I go, how can I make that shorter? And it's fun to to me. It's fun to say, do I need the word that in there?
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with money for me. It was always like, well, instead of, I'm not a frugal person. I am not somebody who will find the cheapest alternative to something. I will figure out, do I even need that thing to begin with? Right. So it's like, I will eliminate. I am much better at elimination than alternativeness of so for example, like
bargain hunting.
Yeah. It's like, I use shampoo and conditioner for my beard and hair, the little that I have left. So it's like, I need to buy the cheapest shampoo and the cheapest conditioner. It's like, or I can get them both in the same package and cut one out completely, as a very, very dumb example. Right. Or do I even need shampoo? Like, let's do some research. Like, is that even a thing? Like, can I use bar soap? Is that going to achieve the same end result? Like, these are really dumb things. Like a lot of you might see like extreme frugality where they make their own soaps and they make their own
reusing tea bags and stupid stuff.
That's being penny wise, dollar foolish. That is not that's not where the savings comes in. It's really kind of like I think it comes from omission. Like, you don't need this and you will never use X and you won't do just be honest with yourself. Like, you just don't need it.
Well, I think in our world of online business, there's a lot of funnel tech and there's a lot of dashboard technology.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's even better than the 2 shampoo bar soap in one.
Sure.
Because it's there's so many people who they're getting 40% commission. So they're going to promote the bejeebas out of you need this thing. This thing's your savior. One of these and your business is forever. And it's kind of well, not really. I just you could do it with HTML. You could do it on WordPress. You could do it with everything that you already have. And it's really easy as a business grows to 10K a month, 20K a month to just buy these $97 subscriptions, $149 products and tools that you actually don't need. And that elimination idea. And what happens when you eliminate it most often, in my personal opinion, it's not even the money, $150 a month. I'm not going to notice that in my books at the bottom line. It's the freaking mental bandwidth to deal with this new learning curve, this new thing, the new thinking about it, versus if I just eliminate that completely and stay focused on content for audience, grow my email list, send great stuff via email. Ta-da! My business just scales.
Yeah, I feel this. Yeah, even every single month, I have a list of recurring revenue product things that I buy for the business.
Do you analyze it?
I constantly delete it. I constantly go in and go, just yesterday, I did it because I do it every month. So yesterday was December 1st. So at the beginning of every month, I go and look at this. I'm paying $8 a month for Calendly. And I was like, why am I doing that? Oh, because when I was doing the podcast, I would, it would be easier for me to send a Calendly link and it would automatically create a Zoom thing. And I'm like, I don't use that much anymore. So I'm just going to delete it. The podcast, actually doing the podcast was one thing where I was like, I do podcast. I'm a podcaster. That's what I do. Except when I looked at the numbers and looked at the amount of effort that I was putting into a thing and the amount of return, it was low. I mean, the margin was low. So it was okay, well, you know, yeah, I could keep doing it. Sure. I mean, it's just, but it's that mental bandwidth, and it's not about the money. Like putting it out is easy. But it's like, well, I have to do that. Like that's what my Thursday is putting that out. Is it worth my Thursday? You know?
Yeah.
And the answer was no.
You do have a limited number of Thursdays.
I have a limited number of Thursdays.
Right.
It's all about time.
Period.
Yeah.
Right. 100%.
And so it was like, well, could you do something like, all right, so that didn't pay off as well as you thought it was, as it would. So maybe you could try something else in Thursdays, right? Maybe you could do video,
Yep.
or you could try something that may have a greater return for you. Because everything that I do when I sit down to work nowadays, I have the luxury now to say this and do this and think this, but I've always kind of like, that was always my goal. And not every day you'd be able to do that, but I go, is the thing I'm working on today going to pay off in perpetuity? I don't want to work on something. It's like when I was doing so when I first started SwimUniversity and I quit my job to work on SwimUniversity, I wasn't making any money from SwimUniversity, maybe 10 grand a year. And so I had to do other work, and I was designing websites for people. But I knew that was like a fool's errand, because and it's not for, I mean, again, this is not for everybody, but like, because there's certainly people that need this kind of work, and they should do this kind of work. But like, I hate it doing work, getting paid for it, and then, okay, I spend that money, and now I got to do it again to get that. That's like going to the feeder bar. Like I had to keep doing that. So my life my work life will never end, unless, there's two ways to do this. You can do what I'm doing, which is if you put time and effort into something, it should pay out forever. The way to do that, if you have the type of job where you are going to the feeder bar, you just save a little piece of food each time, right? And you just hoard it.
Yeah.
So that way, one day you can
and
stop
save
going
a bigger
to
and bigger and bigger piece of food.
Well, the bigger the piece of food each time, the less time you'll be going to the feeder bar, because at one point you don't have to go there anymore. You have a stockpile of pellets for the rest of your life, and probably your kids' lives.
Right.
So that's the whole game. The whole game is you're doing the work now. You don't have to suffer. If you can put your time and effort, and the amount of time and effort is, exponential growth, meaning like I build a blog post, and that blog post sells a product, and it ranks number 1 on Google for the next 3 years, and it just pays me for 3 years. Like the 1 to 2 days amount of work that I did for that one thing to continue paying me for 3 years it's huge. Now imagine taking 75% of that and hoarding it, and then only living off the 25%. Well, if you keep doing that, eventually you won't have to write that thing anymore, because you'll have all this stockpile. And what's great about we were worried I'm not a part of the FIRE community. So FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. A lot of people in that community will say, it's really just FI. It's really just FI. Because no one really retires. Because even Mr. Money Mustache, who has quote unquote retired, meaning he does
do other
not,
stuff.
Yeah, he does not need to work. He chooses to. And most people, just because that's a mental health thing more than it is a mental wealth thing. That's a stupid saying. I was trying to be clever and funny and rhymey, and it just
I'm
made
gonna put
no
on a
sense.
t-shirt.
Oh, fuck.
No, I liked it, but it makes sense. It is. So like my father worked early computers. He worked for the newspapers, and he retired. And when he retired, he was just no longer useful. And he's taken years, and I've seen some other families, parents in the trades, they retire and they don't know what the F to do, and they get depressed. Right. And there's a lot of data around trades, retirement, and like early death. And it's because there's not this, what do I actually want to do? Whereas people who live like long, happy, healthy lives, they fill their hours and their times with other things. And sometimes it's volunteering, it's Habitat for Humanity, sometimes it's brewing and music, whatever it is. But we need something. And when people align with something they love to do and they start sharing it, bingo, there's the opportunity for income, which is kind of interesting. So you've been doing that on SwimUniversity, obviously on the BrewCabin website and MoneyLab. You've been kind of like sharing and playing, and that creates those little assets that all rank and they go do work for you and they sell things, which
Yeah.
creates the income. And then you take a lot of the income and you stuff it away and squirrel it away.
Yeah.
The income that you squirreled away gets large enough to cover your lifestyle as it is.
Yeah.
Most of those assets are still ranking.
Yeah.
And
So
now you're working on building a brew pub.
Right. And to go on that, the other half, right? With the half that you're hoarding, because like it is
Wealth creation side.
I feel like
instead of the cash flow creation side.
This is really hard for a lot of people to understand. And I'm only saying that because I have to explain it to my parents once a month. It's really hard to sink in. I feel like I understood it because I've been talking about it for 7 years, on a podcast. So it was like, it's in me now. But the idea is, if you save $1 million, which is a lot of money, and you put it into what Mr. Money Mustache talks about, which is index funds. Index funds are bundles of stock. So it's like if you can go buy an individual stock like Tesla, right? Or Apple, and you're basically, that stock is whatever that specific company's worth. Or you can get like the bundle sale where you get 10 different companies for the price of one, and it's like, and cool. That's what it is. And except like an index fund is, they trade them out. So sometimes like Apple will be a part of your little fund, and then sometimes it won't be, depending on how well it's doing. And there are two different types of funds. There's index funds and there's mutual funds, right? And there's hedge funds. But mutual funds are run by human beings who are sitting there, and you're paying a fee for them to work and go, no, not Apple. No. So imagine Jim Cramer is running your index fund. I don't know if you watch Jim Cramer, but no fucking thank you. I don't want that guy handling my money. He can't. If you followed his advice like to the T for this entire career, you would lose so much money. So, but he's human. So there's human error. And then index funds, which are run by computers who are doing all the algorithmic math of like, no, not this, but they can do it like instantly. That's what you're paying for. And because it's run by computers, the fees to run those are very cheap because it's not human labor.
Yeah.
And so,
right.
So you don't have to go and buy individual stocks and figure out like, oh, I want to invest in this little tech company. Because like, we're all going to invest in shit we know. It's like, oh, I wear Nikes. I drive a Tesla. I have an Apple computer. I also have an Android phone. It's like, all right, I'm going to invest in all those companies. And it's like, well, you're just in tech. You didn't really diversify, there's companies that do
and
lumber.
Ultimately, real quick. So you're talking about like essentially like the Vanguard VTSAX fund, which is like the total stock market fund. You're literally buying a tiny piece of every single stock. There's nobody thinking about it. So the fees on that fund are like 0.16% versus 2 to 4% on a mutual fund, which again means more of your money is going into the investment. And you've got this broad, so you go as the market goes. So even if Apple and Tesla come crashing down, there might be some copper mining stocks that go up because it becomes a commodity cycle. And ultimately you get the balance of everything. Less thoughts about it. So you get to kind of just.
Yes. When you buy index funds, you're diversifying in a way. You're not, and a lot of them do, you could do bonds as well. You can do individual commodities if you want to. You can buy individual stocks also, like on top of all this. But let's just take, the VST, the Vanguard Total Market, fund, which is basically like the S&P 500. You're investing in the top 500 companies, in the stock market. And it's like Coke or Coca-Cola, and it's like Apple and all these other companies, things that you're familiar with for the most part. And like, if the economy does well, or I shouldn't say the economy, if the stock market does well, then you do well, right? Well, what's happening is if you took $1 million and you stuck it in one big ass index fund, right? On average, if you extrapolate it out 100 years, roughly, the stock market has grown by like 7 to 12%, somewhere in that range. And I like to be conservative and say 7%, right? So, and of course, you have your dips. You have your 2008s, you have your, 1982s or whatever, you have your 1939s and shit like that. You have those dips. They do happen. But if you extrapolate it over time, there's a net positive. And so that's the whole game. So what happens is you have $1 million and you're making 7%. You're earning 7% interest on $1 million. That's $70,000 a year, right? So in the FIRE community, there's this thing called the 4% rule, although now I would say it's more like the 3.5% rule, but let's say it's still the 4% rule. That means you can, if you had $1 million in an index fund, then you could safely withdraw 40 grand a year and you would still grow by $30,000 every year.
You would have $1,030,000 that's accumulating for the next year.
And then when you
taking
right,
out
and then
your
you take 4% of that, right, and then it's a little bit more next year. So every year you're making a little bit more. You're basically growing with inflation, which is around 2%.
Your principal grows, and you're able to withdraw money for life. And theoretically, the growth of the principal allows you to handle inflation in the future. So at some point, you might need to take out $45,000 per year because inflation, your chicken and your eggs cost more, and your milk costs more. So you need more. And so theoretically, that model will float you, which means there's two super simple numbers to chase down. Number one, live on less than $40,000 per year.
Right.
And number two, stuff $1 million into this world.
But how do you,
oversimplifying, and this is definitely not investment advice. We're trying to express the theoretical potential of what I would call true wealth, which is freedom, completely unlocking yourself for freedom. And the devil's in the details and their nuances. And the MoneyLab.co podcast, which Matt's been hosting for years, has a lot of in-depth discussions on this. So we're just kind of broad overview.
But that's the general principle behind it, right? Where, so it. And I know that seems pie in the sky. Like how am I going to get to $1 million? You don't have to, but just know that there is a way to reach freedom, So let's say, and again, it's really easy for somebody making $100,000 a year right now to live off of $30,000 a year. If you have to do a lot of lifestyle changes, you have to downgrade your home, and there's a lot. It's a sacrifice, only to stash $70,000, $60,000 away every year. Well, if you stash $60,000 away every year into these index funds, and
14 years away.
14 years away, and depending on how well you do or how so there is a finish line, and you can get there relatively soon, but it's not an over-year thing. It's not a overnight thing. It's a 10-year, 15-year thing. It's something you have to commit to now and work your way towards. Yeah. Or you can be you can do like what we're doing, where we're starting our own businesses, where you're making more than 100,000. You're making maybe 200,000. Well, now you can still live on $40,000 a year, but you're going to get to that number way faster, right? Or
so just playing with that number real quick, if I could. Yeah. So I think that in our world, generating $250,000 a year is totally doable. Like I think it takes time to get to that point, but it's doable. So if you're able to get $250,000 a year, at least to get there. But you could start putting in $200,000 a year. You're making $50,000 a year, as long as lifestyle creep doesn't absorb that extra that you're earning. If you're putting in $200K a year, you're 5 years away from that, right? If you're putting in $100K a year to this, you're 10 years away. That $160K a year mark that you said, that's what, 6 years, 160, give or take 6 years. Mm-hmm. Freedom for life. Theoretically,
for life,
with some willingness to be flexible, and knowing that most people who cross that threshold make some sort of a pivot to do what they do, and they start making art, they start making soaps, they want to be in their community, so they're selling random stuff at the farmers market. They start permaculture orchard, and then now they're selling peaches and pear. There's just so many doors that it opens. Sorry, I just wanted to play it literally can potentially, for a lot of people, be a 10-year or less plan to ultimate freedom, with obviously everything that I teach on my YouTube channel. What we do is increase your cash flow on one side is a constant. Let's increase the cash flow. Let's decrease the expenses and live on less, and be aware of spending money on liabilities, things that cost money. It's simple and not necessarily easy.
It's not easy, and you have to commit to it. It's a thing you have to go, oh, okay, this is my thing. And that's why people get into the community, because it becomes a cult, And
where is this community? What do you consider this community, out of curiosity? Is it his forums, or is it like the Reddits?
This part of it. No, I think it's bigger than that now. It's just the FIRE community. There's Reddits. There's his forums.
Financial Independence Reddit.
Yeah, financial. Oh yeah, it's FI. Yeah. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are dedicated to this one topic.
The mad
It's a little
scientist.
like, yeah, it's a little just a movement, if you will. There's a movie you can watch, Playing with Fire, that my friend did. Yeah, there's just, and then like then there's, there's minimalism, which I don't equate necessarily to the same thing. I have my beef to pick with minimalism because I feel like they're trying to make it a movement when it's really just a design choice. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, be minimalist. That's great. Not everybody can afford that luxury, and not everybody likes that aesthetic. So it's not for everybody. But
Yeah.
it's don't confuse the two, because they tend to get confused with each other. But like, no, minimalism is like you buy really nice shit, but just less of it.
Yeah. And so the nomad, I did 4 years full-time nomad with wifey, and we actually did get down to just 2 bags each.
Yeah.
We didn't have like a
There's
storage
that
unit. We didn't
right.
have that side of it. I didn't have a closet at my parents' house. Like I had nothing, like nothing in the garage. Like we literally just got down to 2 bags of stuff.
And
that
that's
was
more,
it. And we
more
lived
nomadic, because you literally have to be that way. Like you don't have a
yeah,
house.
totally.
Right.
Or I'm spending money on a roll-up door that has stuff collecting
Right.
dust in it, which like then I'm like, what are these things in my life? And
Mhm.
there is a geo arbitrage potential. We were living in some places that were quite inexpensive for the quality of life that we had. Some like literally beach mansions for $700, $800, $900 a month type stuff. Growing our businesses from there, and it's
Were you like house sitting?
Diego. No, just
like,
renting, just
renting?
in certain communities in Thailand and in Bali.
Oh, yeah.
Even in Mexico, some parts of Mexico, we had some really cool beach spots for super inexpensive. The food's super cheap. You get maid service multiple times a week, and all of that for $1,000, $1,500 a month type stuff. I grew up in the Bay Area, so the price is a mess to me. And it was one of those ways for us. So I had $50,000 in student loan debt hanging over my head, and we haven't kind of mentioned debt, but in this path to wealth, I would say, from wherever the listener's at now, step one is increase cash flow, which obviously that's what my channel teaches you. That's why we do affiliate marketing. That's why we build brands.
Yeah.
That's why we sell ad space and sell products and services, etc. Then number 2 is pay down bad debt, right? Got to get out from underneath the debt machine, because debt will just erode at you. And then number 3 is pay off everything. So we were traveling around. I paid off $50,000 in student loan debt in about 8 months. And the last month, I think I paid $8,000 on that debt. So I made larger payments each month.
Yeah.
And when I was done, all of a sudden I had this extra $8,000 a month. And because I had learned to live without it. Before I was using all my money. I was like, well, if we skip here, if we go to if we cook our own food, like literally was able to get to where I was paying $8,000 a month on that. And then the final month that I made my last payment, this $8,000 a month started showing. I was like, what do I do with this? That's where I found the FIRE community. That's where I found like, investing and put it in and get it to grow and keep adding to it while it grows. And there's a finish line now that I'm potentially chasing down. And it just literally becomes math. And someone who wants to be extremely conservative, use the 3% rule as your withdrawal rate. And that has proven itself even in the worst markets. And it's kind of cool. And I saw you, I think you said it in your lifestyle business manifesto, is like your personal finish line, including the house that you just bought, is close. Like you can
I'm
smell
done.
it, or you're there.
There. It's like, well, all I have to do is maintain this. All I have to do is like keep working enough to make this house stay up.
Yeah.
And that's not really that much, money compared to what we're making. So it's like, I always know that at some point, if the internet disappears tomorrow, like I have these like, scenarios that are like insane, but that makes me feel better. I'm like, I'm good at other shit. I can make alcohol. So it's like, I'm a very productive person. Like I will always find shit to do. Like I will always be valuable to whatever community, even the zombie apocalypse. Like I can be the chef of the group, like I can be the guy who can make alcohol from a coconut, because I understand, controlled, decomposition and
fermentation.
It's just like, fermentation. So it's like that's just part of it. I can play guitar. So it's like there's other little like, things I can do. Do you hear a crackly sound coming through your headphones when you talk? Okay, good. So it's
not
just
at all.
Good. So if you don't hear it, then it's fine.
No. And it's interesting. Yeah,
That
and you
happened last
mentioned that
time,
when we did the recording for your YouTube thing, and then I had 2 other recordings with other podcasts, and
and
nobody
it
else
was
hears
fine.
it but you. So
Yeah.
I'm
My,
hopeful this entire YouTube recording hasn't had crackles, but
no, no, no. It just
it might.
started, but like it's probably my
Oh,
headphone thing. But yeah, so going on your you had mentioned this thing about like increase income and then pay off debt. So
lifestyle
back
creep.
when
Oh
so
yeah,
when I first started with Listen Money Matters, when it was a website before we did the podcast, I had developed this thing which I still love and I wish we would use it. It's called the Wealth Wheel, and it's just a visual representation of like how it all works. And to me, it makes sense. It might be super dumb, but it's a wheel, and the wheel spins, right? And at
okay.
the very top of the wheel, it's income, right? So the gas to the wheel to make the wheel spin is income. You have to have revenue. You have to have money coming in at some point, right? The next part is the braking system. The brake is debt. So the more debt you have, the more the brake goes on. So it doesn't matter how much money you pump in, like you still have the brakes on, and the wheel is not spinning that fast. It's spinning very slowly. So what you do, so your first job is like get income and then pay off the debt, and then the wheel can start spinning. The second part of the wheel is budgeting. So it's now taking and allocating that income towards whatever, and then the last part of the wheel is investing. And then what investing does is, you budget so that you can like keep more for yourself, but then also towards investing. And then what investing does is it earns you income. So that's part of the income coming down. And so the wheel just keeps getting faster and faster and faster, right? As long as you keep the brakes off and you keep the budget going and you keep putting money into investing and you keep your income coming in plus investing, like you're just adding more into the income stream and it just keeps making it wheel go faster. So it's really about, it's really that's it in my head, and it just makes sense to me. Like that, the goal is this to make the wheel spin faster, and not putting on the brakes is the one way to do it. However, there is some people would argue there's good and bad debt, right? Like credit card debt, bad.
Yeah.
House debt, good. Having a mortgage, good, depending on what your interest rates are, and
yeah.
and if you're
And if
not
other people are paying the mortgage for you
mortgage for
because
you,
you're
yeah,
renting it out and because it's
exactly,
right.
yep.
When did this come onto your radar? Like, so you clearly have an understanding of this. I mean, that's a big part of what your podcast was about, was learning this. And maybe that was a byproduct of like, hey, we're making all this money. What the fuck do I do with all this money?
That came. So, okay. So I think this is the most important thing I've ever done in my life, which was I was living in a condo in New Jersey that I had bought. I was working a job. I was making $60K a year at that job while all my friends were in college, right? I am like in South Jersey. I mean, I was a king, like that's a lot of money. I owned my own house. I drove a BMW. It's like, come on. I had a king size bed. I was living by myself. I was like, this is it. But yeah, but all that money disappeared because I was so bad at managing money. I didn't have a lot of credit card debt because like I couldn't get credit cards because I had already like ruined my credit many years prior to that. And I didn't go to college, so I didn't have college debt either. But that's worse because I had so much money coming in, and yet at the end of the day, I was broke. Like I had no money, and I'm like, where is all this money going? But I just accepted in that moment, in that time frame, and for the longest time, that I was bad with money. I just suck at it. I'm never going to understand it. My dad has the same mentality as that. And he still believes that. He's like, this is just not my thing. Another thing he used to always say to me, and it bothered me, when I was a musician, when I was trying to be an actual rock star, right? We were trying to get signed by a label. We had original albums, we were touring, things like that. He would say, we weren't making any money. And we did have a treasurer, like my buddy who was good with money. He was keeping track of the books. And we did have, like, we were earning, but like we would just blow it on the tour or whatever. And it would just like never happen. My dad used to always say, like, musicians make terrible businessmen. Like that was just the credo. And I'm like, okay. And I just accepted that. I'm a musician. I'm a creative type. I will just be a bad business person. I will just be bad with money because that's how my dad is. And that's just the cards I was dealt. That's like one. I didn't even, anyway. That's my fidget spinner. Is the deck of cards. So if you
I
hear
like
if you hear this, it's like it's not me farting into the microphone. It's me shuffling a deck underneath the table.
Shuffling cards.
Yeah, maybe could be farting. I don't know. So I and then so like right before every time I fart, I'll just go, oh, it was this. So when I had all that money and it was disappearing, I was just like, yep, I suck. I even at one point asked my mom to be my like COO of my life, not my business. I didn't have a business. Just mom, I'm going to give you my paychecks. You're going to run my bank account. Just give me an allowance like I'm a baby because I clearly suck at this. And that didn't last very long. And then what happened was, I saw the writing on the wall that my company was not doing very well. And I knew that like marketing is usually the first people out the door. And I was like, and I could just sense it because I was, part of the business. I was a right-hand man sort of thing, And so I was like, I might get let go, but not fired because I'm great at my job, but I might get let go, which means I can collect unemployment. And that had been something I didn't like. I am so bad with this is prior to me now, but like there was a time where I was working at Target or I was working at the retail store, and I was making good money, but then like the wintertime came and they couldn't keep everybody on. And he had a really bad year and he had to let everybody go. And so I was like, shit, I'm out of a job. I'm going to go work at Target, for the holiday season and then come back to work in the spring. Well, when I came back to work, everyone was like, what'd you do during your break? I'm like, I worked at Target. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I needed to work. They're like, you could have collected unemployment. You weren't fired. I was like, what? I could have taken off the whole winter, and just collect. And so I didn't know. And now all of a sudden I knew that. And I was like, okay. So I got let go. And I was like, if I get let go and I get unemployment, this is my opportunity. This is my government loan to start my own business. And that meant, I felt it happening. It was happening. And so I knew that if it happened, I couldn't live in my house anymore. And I was okay. I was okay with that. And I knew that I couldn't be shitty with money. I was so sick and tired of being shitty with money. And I was so sick of just hearing it from like everyone around me. And so I bought books. The first book I bought was The Simple Dollar. And that book was good. And then I was reading online about I Will Teach You to Be Rich, which is Ramit's book. And it's a very douchey title, but it is not a douchey book by any means. And so I read that book and I was like, oh, everything made sense to me because it's literally a blueprint for, and it's not a blueprint in budgeting where it's like a blueprint in like, it's almost a blueprint in self-awareness and understanding who you are as a person and the human flaw that like, you're not good with money, but you know who is? Robots. Robots are good with money because they don't give a fuck about your feelings. And so like if you put the robots in charge, meaning automate your finances, then it's like it takes you off the hook. And I was like, well, I can get behind that. Yep. And then he was like, if you like getting lattes, at Starbucks, this is the whole like thing. He was like, you can still do that. But maybe there's something else that you're paying a lot of money for that you actually don't like. So if you're like true to yourself, then maybe stop spending a lot of money on that. I'm not a clothes person. Like I wear this every single day, whether it's indoors or out.
It's a nice Patagonia vest.
It's it was $100 and I wear it. I've wear it for like 2 years straight.
On your guitar riff inside of the video. That's the outfit.
Old Navy hoodie. I have 3 of them. And then I have one hat that I wear. And if it, it's it. It's like my uniform.
Perfect.
So if you like, so I knew that I read the book. I was like, fine, I'm going to be good with money, which means that I had to rent my house out. I moved in with my younger brother and I sold my car and I was paying around like $4,500 a month when I was living by myself, making $60,000. Obviously I'm not making $60,000 anymore because I went on unemployment. And And I also knew too, like, well, no one's going to want to hear that I'm on unemployment, but drive a BMW. Like, that's what a dick thing to like live with. And so,
Oh,
yeah, I
you must be
sold that.
from Jersey.
Yeah.
One of those unemployed Beamer drivers.
Yeah. I didn't want to be like looked at as a freeloader, because I am certainly not that. I'm an opportunist. And so like so then what happened was I sold that, moved in with my brother, was like paying $500 a month in rent, and bought I bought a Honda Civic Coupe. I don't forget what year. And that was it. It was like a 2-door, get me around sort of car that I really didn't even need. I could have got something way cheaper. But to me, it was like, I was paying $200 a month for it. So I was like, all right, that seems pretty cheap. So my bills were $700 a month, to survive, and then food and shit. So like $1,000 a month was like my thing. And then and then I was getting unemployment. I was working, doing website design while I was building SwimUniversity up. But at the same time, I was reading personal finance books, because again, I can't start a business and be bad at money. You can't. Those two things don't work out.
Yeah. And
so what happened was, I'd built SwimUniversity, and I was in a community called Fizzle, and this guy reached out to me. He said, I really like your website. I have this website. Would you mind helping me out with it? And the site was listedmoneymatters.com. And I was like, oh, here's a personal finance expert who needs my help in my expertise. I need his help. And so we teamed up and became friends and started the podcast together. And when the podcast first came out, I knew nothing. So I played the everyman, right? The every person who didn't understand it. And then he would have all the knowledge. And so like that's sort of the dynamic that played out. And then it was very like crass and very, like bro, centric, which people said, but yeah. But I grew up listening to like Howard Stern and like Preston and Steve and all these like
Opie
morning
Anthony.
radio zoo things, So I was like, that would be a weird, all these personal finance shows are boring white guys. We were just not boring, but also white guys. So it's like, and we were like, there was a dynamic
shock jock approach.
Yeah. And because that's the music that I wrote for the beginning theme song is metal, because that's my favorite podcast or radio show at the time was like it was from a metal radio station. So, and that's what taught me personal finance. I immersed myself in the world to understand it, to not be afraid of it, to not be bad at it anymore. And best decision I ever made.
So, and for a lot of people listening, I mean, there's this phase when what you're actually interested in. So let's say somebody's trying to figure out affiliate marketing, and there's like this jargon, there's a new vocabulary, there's a whole new world out there. And people use words to describe their world, right? That's language is what we use. And at first it feels intimidating and like, I don't understand it. Like people have this, like, I'm not techie. And it's just like, all that means is you haven't spent enough time to really immerse yourself in understanding the nuances of it. When I find it really interesting. So it seems like disgust was a very powerful emotion for you there. You kind of got disgusted with like just realizing that money flowed in and out completely. And you're like, holy crap. Like at some point you added up, you're like, damn, a couple of years of this, like 180 grand, like gone. And I got fucking $42 in the bank account. Like 180 grand came through here in 3 years. And then out of that disgust, you're like, okay, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go all into the problem to learn it. Man, that's exactly what I did with learning online business, building websites.
Disgust. That's how I quit
straight out
smoking.
Discuss. We had to move back into my parents' house. We had to, I had promised my wife all these riches, and I was doing this network marketing stuff, and it was just a total fucking scam. And it all came crashing down, and we literally didn't have money for rent, and we had to move back into my parents' house. I was like 29 or 30 years old, and like I just remember being in that bedroom. My dad was retired, and tiny house in the Bay Area, and I just remember this moment in the bedroom of just like, what the fuck have you done, Miles? Like, you piece of shit. Like, you've let her down, you've let you down, you've told everybody. I did. And but out of that, I found this new gear of like, I got to figure this out. And I just spent all night, all day, literally 20-hour, 17-hour days, nights, weekends, everything. I said no to everything. And I was just in the forums. YouTube wasn't really a learning, as good of a learning
tool as it is today then. And I just figured out how to do it. And then we figured out what to do. It's like, oh, okay, keyword research, content, publish, SEO optimize, repeat 1,000 times. I'm done learning. I need to go execute this over and over.
But what did you do before that?
Extra momentum.
Like, you clearly
So I was trying every scheme in the book.
Okay.
So every scheme in the book. So I started by spamming MySpace, building fake profiles and linking people to offers. And that came crashing down because they shut down my links. And then I looked for the next scam. At one point it was, I did real estate investing at one point, and I was doing online marketing to find distressed buyers. And then the global financial crisis reamed us and we lost 60 grand on the last house on that one. Network marketing, I got all into MLMs at one point in time, thinking that, oh, I just go get 3 people and they get 3 people and they get 3 people. And all of a sudden, 27 layers deep, I have the entire world on my team. And like literally every 7 billion humans are earning me cash flow. And multiple of those companies got shut down, or they just turned themselves off because they were total scams. And so I was jumping from, and at one point in marketing, we were using spin text and article spin rewriter things. And I was just trying to find ways to get the result without doing the work. I was literally what's the shortcut? Any way to get the result without doing
ironically, those tools are a lot of work. Like, that's not work. It's really shitty work, but it's hard.
It's really shitty work that creates really shitty output that takes up an exorbitant amount of time and energy. And it's so far from a shortcut. And that's why I use this quote so much. Like, the ultimate shortcut is just digging in for 3 years. Because had I not done all of those stupid other things that got me to disgust, because I realized I was like, I have just wasted 7 years.
How do you know that? How do you know that in the moment, though? Like, you got to give there's some slack, because I feel like
I just felt it.
But that's because you're moral.
Well, how did you know in the moment? How did you know in the moment that you were just shit with money, and that like you just get to this point of like something's coming, like my cash flow is about to stop. I've been terrible with money, and you just have this epiphany moment. And so I remember literally I was in my bedroom at my parents' house, and I was like, dude, I've done all of this stuff. I spent 7 years trying to scheme. And like, if I had just created great, valuable content and just helped people and really just been all in on one brand. I had a poker chip website at one point. If I had just stuck with that and created like how to shuffle poker chips with your hands content and just been all like, it would have worked. I would have been there. And it just clicked, like, man, like, damn, like, so for you, it was like, damn, all that money I've earned that just went out to fast food and to stupid things. And I was like, all that energy that I spent went out to stupid things.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out the right way to do this.
Well, it was when it was a
good turning point for me.
Yeah. I never felt rock bottom, right? Although what I felt was when I was getting laid off, because I was at the height of like the amount of money I was making. Like, I had a good job. And I was making more than everyone in my life, because it's 2008 and all my friends can't get jobs because they're out of college and they're like, there's no jobs. And yet here I am, like, I will always have a job. I've had a job my whole life. I didn't go to college because I've always made money. I'm like, well, what's the point? I already have all these skills. Why do I need college? What's college going to teach me? You know, I'm going to be teaching them a lot of stuff. So it's a really dick thing to say, but really pompous attitude, and that's why I didn't go to college. I did not work there. My personality is no. So it was a moment of like, well, if you were going to seriously attempt this thing, which is like jumping without a safety net, although there was a safety net, it was called unemployment. Don't be dumb. Like, don't do this like haphazardly. You know, like you could stay in your condo, sure, but like you're going to be working twice as hard to get, you know, and you just need time and freedom not to worry about that stuff. So I don't know. It was like a little weird, like self-aware moment, and like
an epiphany.
Yeah, but I had it. I also quit smoking from disgust. I did not want to be a part of that community, and I know they're not really a community, but like when you see a woman like with a stroller smoking a cigarette, and then you just go, or like you go and you go into like Wawa and you just see like a guy on a smoke break, and you're like, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
Or like you see like a family with the mom and dad are like smoking in the car, and then there's like those images, and
I
then,
was that kid in the back seat.
yeah, thankfully my mom smoked, but never around us, you know. But yeah, and then what really got me was like I ended up vaping because I was like, this is better, you know, this is better than smoking. It tastes like mojito instead of like tobacco. And then I would go to a vape store and people would just like congregate there, and I'm like, oh, I don't belong here. This is not me. Yeah. And it was just like, I don't belong here. I don't want to be a part of this. This feels wrong, you know. And it was like disgust of like this environment that's really toxic, you know, literally, and I didn't want to be a part of it. Same thing with like the money thing. It's like, this feels toxic. This feels wrong. I don't want to be a part of it. I want to be a smarter person. I've always struggled with like being smart. It's always dumb. I always like failed shit and like didn't do well in high school. Like I was a class clown and like just I never did homework in high school. Just refused because I just was like, this is dumb. Like I'll take the hit. Like I will be good in class. I'll just take the hit when I have to go home because it's like I had to work. Like I went out. You know, when I'm done school, I have other shit to do. I'm not doing your extra shit. You know, like I'm here for 8 hours. That's enough. I'm good. I've learned. Let's move on. So yeah, I just would take the hit and like get C's. You know, it's like what are you gonna do? Anyway,
perfect.
So yes, it's hard to nail down the epiphany. I think like yours is very, from the visceral.
Well, it was an intense period. It was the rock bottom bounce for sure.
Right.
But you mentioned the teach you to be rich and budgeting. Did you ever get into anything like you need a budget or any of the actual budgeting systems? Do you keep like a logical, proper budget?
No, I can't. And there's a reason.
It's all kind of up in your head.
Yeah, okay. I'm not a frugal person. I never said, you know, I'm not a penny pincher by any means. I don't budget. What I do is it's more of a self-awareness thing. It's like, I am not going to buy this thing. I have a trick. One of my tricks is when I used to be an impulse purchaser. Like I used to be at the store and be like, oh, this, just put it in my cart. I practiced this thing where you would put it on a piece of paper or your phone or whatever. You would write it down instead of buying it at the time. And
if it ain't there, you don't get it.
Or you wait 30 days and then you're like, I don't want that anymore. You just delete it.
So you're talking like big purchases. So like electric drum kit. Yeah, I'm going to get that Amazon Black Friday deal.
Right.
Write it down. Do I really want that thing in 30 days?
Well, in 30 days, yeah. And it was anything. Like if I was a home brewing thing or whatever, that was it. But Ramit, I don't think he might have talked about this in the updated version of I Will Teach You to Be Rich, but he has this concept that I really liked that I was already kind of like practicing, but like he put a name to it and it was called money dials. And it's this idea that like, you know, you're allowed to turn up the dial on things that really bring you absolute joy to your life, but you have to turn down the dials on things that don't. So like, you know, I don't buy a lot of things just because like they don't actually bring me. I took a long time to get into this mindset, but it's a mindset thing. It's not a budget thing. Although I will say that like writing down the things that you buy and writing down the things that you spend is good practice, just like it is for like losing weight and stuff. But then you get into the habit of like knowing what those things like you get like it builds a habit. So I certainly did those things. I didn't use YNAB. I used Mint and I used like mostly spreadsheets because what I hate doing, and this is going to sound crazy, I hate being in my phone. If I'm out and shopping or doing anything, the last thing I want to do is tabulate what I just did. You know, like I don't want to write down shit. Like I have a life to live. Like I want to eat a sandwich and not have to write down that I fucking ate a sandwich. That's so ridiculous. You know, every moment that I have to do that is a moment I'm not in life. I'm not there. I'm somewhere else. And it's just stupid and it's not productive. But you have to, there is like, I'm contradicting myself because I do see its value.
Especially for its personality types too.
Yes. At a certain point though, you go, oh, I don't, you know, I don't want to spend my, like, I don't spend money on clothes is like a thing. Like, I don't have expensive watches and expensive shoes. Like, I fucking hate buying shoes. Like, I have one pair of shoes, I wear them for like 2 years, and that's a terrible thing for my feet, but I just don't care. And so I don't spend money on that. I don't spend money on, like, well, now that COVID, like, we used to go out to eat all the time. You know, but I'm a cook, so like we didn't go out all the time. Like I know some people who go out all the time. I mean, like once a week, but we would go somewhere like decent, and it would cost a lot of money. And now we're not, and I'm like, well, I have all this extra money, you know, because like I'm spending that money on food. We have a few things that I have a spare no expense policy on, but then there are other things that I just omit. I just don't buy. It's not that I buy the cheap version of it. I just don't get it. You know what I mean? And so. Or yeah, it's just, I don't know, like artwork. I don't fucking care about artwork. I have none of it. It's our house is completely bare, and it's not that I should. It looks nice, but oh my god, I'm not like people who spend like $1,000 on a piece of art or something. I'm like, I understand that. I get it. Not for me. You know what I mean?
So when we in our Sedona place, which I'm in right now, we turned it into an Airbnb, and the management team was like, here's the list of things you have to get for this to be one of the luxury Airbnbs, because we wanted to be kind of we're on the higher end of things.
Right.
And like wooden hangers, and I'm like, wooden hangers, that's a thing? And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
30 hangers? And just the amount of art we had to go obtain and hang for the place, and these little light things and all these little, I don't drink, so we had to get like two wine glasses, and then obviously you need the red and white ones because you're fancy, and just this list. And like we did it because it was a business expense, right? It's investing into an asset to make sure. And the house brought, I think max was $575 a night. But when it was all said and done, we're selling the house right now as a turnkey Airbnb property. So you get like look at all the stuff I did for you. And it's we spent less than $20,000 on all of the stuff. And people spend, you can read online, people spend $50,000 to get a house Airbnb ready, and we did it for like 20 grand. And it was like, okay, so there's like these, like it became a list of have to buys, and it was like, all right, so some of these things we can skimp on. Other things like this art back here, you know, wifey painted it. She's like, I'm good now, I'll just make some whoop, 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 like get a bunch of paints and things, and there's always that kind of like fine line, that hack in between it.
Yeah, and I think this, and I'm also again, it's all about optimization, and it's optimization of things. So like like I'm a cook, I love cooking. I am like, it's just it is my like pastime. But I am so anti unitaskers and so anti things that I would buy just for one purpose. Like I just, you know, like it took me so long to buy a blender because I was like, you know, when I lived alone, I had like a cheap Oyster blender, you know, $20 from Target, whatever, never used it. So when I got to like redo my life, I'm like, no blender, no food processor. I can beat things fast enough with a whisk. Like I will figure, you know, I will find a way to do it. One pan, you know, like a one cast iron pan, one nonstick pan. That's it. Like I could do everything in that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like one utensil, like a good one, like a good spatula, you know, a whisk. I don't like. There's like a handful, and we don't have a lot of like dishes.
Gadgetry.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's awesome.
And everything's like from IKEA, but I love it. It's like a thing that I will like. If I have to buy a pan, I'm gonna research it. I'm gonna buy the fucking pan that's gonna last me forever, and it's gonna be my one pan, and it's gonna do a myriad of things. Whereas like, and that's actually an area where I have a spare no expense policy, but I don't actually use it. You know, like home brewing is another one. I have a spare no, it's my hobby. It's my thing. I don't care. You know, snowboarding is one of those things, but like I have a snowboard. It works. You know, cars are a big one for me. Like I realized I bought a BMW, and it was the car that I've always wanted. It was a BMW 3 Series 328i. I drove it for 8 months. Got multiple tickets, more tickets than I've ever gotten, just because the car was faster than I was used to. I was always used to driving like a Civic or like a, it was fun. Yeah. And, you know, it wasn't expensive. I wouldn't, you know, I think I spent maybe like $400 a month on it or whatever, which to me at the time, like wasn't that expensive. Like I know friends that have $800 a month, $1,500 a month car payments. And I, like, for example, Tesla. Everyone I know is getting a fucking Tesla, right?
Yeah.
I want a Tesla, technically, because it's a piece of tech. And I kept trying, and this is like that whole thing about self-awareness where I'm sitting here going like, well, yeah, then I won't have to buy gas anymore. And I'll save the environment, right? Oh, I'm going to do it to save the environment, right? Okay. Well, yeah, but I can just not drive, and then that also saves the environment.
Ride
So
a bike, like Mr.
ride a
Money
bike,
Mustache.
right? You can get an electric bike,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't, and then I go, well, I don't care what, like, I hate going to car washes. I hate washing my car. I don't care what cars look like. I don't care what they're like inside. As long as I can hook my phone up to the thing and play my music, whether it's a CD or not, I don't care. As long as I can play my music and it sounds decent and the ride is semi-comfortable, I don't really care what it is.
And it gets you to where you want to be when, like it shows up, it does the automotive function.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I have some criteria where it's like, I don't want to go to a mechanic. I don't want to I don't want to care about this thing.
Right.
I want it
to
be
a needy car.
It's a utility.
Mm-hmm.
It's like having a telephone or cable or gas to your house. Like it's just a thing. And I realized that to the point where I was like, oh, yeah, the Tesla's too much money. Like as much as it's like cool and I can definitely afford one.
Totally.
But it's like
a status symbol.
I don't care. And I actually don't want to look like a douche. I feel like when I see a Tesla, I feel like I look, again, I want one. Yep. I have one share of Tesla stock. Like I do believe in what they're doing. I just don't care about cars.
Yep.
That's just not my thing. And so
and to tie it all in, I mean, it's like, okay, so the Tesla Model 3, I got a friend, another friend, and just it's the new Lambo in the internet marketing world, right? Like it's no longer like you're not flexing in front of your Lambo, you're flexing in front of your Tesla. So a buddy of mine just went and got a 3. And what the 3 starting at like 29 or 35,000.
Yeah,
he spent $77,000 on his car that starts at like 30 grand because, well, I need that and I want this model and that model. Yeah. And literally, like we get in it and he punched it once and he was like, isn't that cool? And it's like, wow, that was a $75,000 flex. And
isn't that cool?
Just a vehicle,
one time,
just to get you from place A to place B. And what you're saying is, instead of getting a loan, putting the brakes on the wheel, you take that money and there's another 75 grand towards my finish line. And I just leapfrog myself towards that finish line. And instead of
something that will actually make me happy,
100%.
Like a home brewing kettle or a, something that make my life easier. That's another thing too. Like I do a lot of omission, but I also like to spend money on things I hate, like I don't like mowing the lawn, never did, hate it. I know some people enjoy it and that's fine. I hate it. And so that is something that like gives me joy to not have to do.
So like a Roomba lawnmower robot, you're like, you'd buy it. Do they?
No, they do have them. And I don't want a murder robot driving around my house. Jesus Christ.
Constantly pinging Jeff Bezos at Amazon. What would you like me to do now? What would you like me to do now?
Dude, it's like spinning blades. That's just on its own. No, God forbid it runs over like a child.
So you hire people to do it is what you're saying then?
I mean, just the first time I've ever had to, like, because we actually have a lawn now.
And it's winter, so you don't have much to deal with.
No, we're not paying anybody. No, but so we have a lawn now. But I've been saying this for 10, 15 years. Like, ever since I had to stop mowing my parents' lawn, I would say to my dad, like, I'm going to make enough money so I never have to mow this fucking lawn again. My dad's like, go to your room. You said the F word. Yeah. So it's like, that was my, And then there was like, I had, we don't have one now. And I don't know, one day we might again. Well, we had a maid service, like a cleaning service that come through the house.
I've been literally, that's what I'm thinking about over here on my end is one thing that we every, like for the deep clean stuff, like I can clean up after myself, right? We pick up on a regular time, but like, to really get down in that toilet and
like, at our old place, we had every 2 weeks. And So I was convinced by a friend to do this because he was like, look, you know, yes, you are more than capable of cleaning your own house, right? You can do it. Same with, I'm more than capable of mowing my own lawn. You know, I'm not lazy. Although my friend likes to admit that, like, he's like, you know, you're lazy. You only do things you want to do. I'm like, so I figured it out.
That's
is what you're
selective.
saying?
Yeah.
Right. But you know, like the work that I do and the work that I've chosen to do for 1 hour of my time, which I mean, I had to get to this place. It wasn't like I've always had this, but 1 hour of my specific skill set will earn me more money than 1 hour of me than it would pay for me, like for me to pay somebody for 1 hour to mow a lawn. You know, I could pay a kid who's just getting started, you know, here's $20, mow my lawn, you know, whatever. I don't know what the going rate is anymore, but he mows the lawn and I'm like, wow, I can make maybe $100 in that hour doing something else. Plus I hate it. So it's like, I'm going to be miserable and I'm going to hate owning this lawn because I have to do this thing. And same with the house cleaning. Somebody was like, look, you can clean your house, but it takes 2 to 3 hours to clean your house, and do something in those 2 to 3 hours that would earn you more than what it costs you to pay somebody else to do it. And I was like, yes, that doesn't work for everybody, but yes, that makes sense. That made sense to me. And we did have that. Unfortunately, the side effect of that is like every 2 weeks, some person came into our house and for 2 hours was there. And,
Right.
and it, like, it's
like
distracting.
awkward. It's like I can't record a video.
Right. And not that it's a bad thing, but it was like, so when we moved into this house, which is much bigger, we were like, why don't we just do like deep cleans every quarter or something? Like, we don't need this like person coming into our house and, you know, or let's find a service that where like 10 people come in and they just knock it out in like 30 minutes. Like that's, you know, I will pay extra for that, you know, like level of
in Sedona. Literally it's a team of 5 people and one dude's just like this. And then the 4 ladies are just like boom, 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 boom. And like within an hour and a half, and it's an expensive hour and a half, but like, I don't care. It's done. I mean,
it's done,
spotted.
Yeah.
So do you think much about like how much is your time worth and how much is a day worth or an hour worth? You ever play that side?
I don't. No.
Okay.
No. Which is why I do a lot of things for free, because I definitely don't value my own time for myself. Like, if somebody needs help, I don't sit there and go like, all right, well, it's going to cost you because, like, you know, I could be doing something, you know, it's kind of like that woman from Parks and Rec. Do you watch Parks and Rec at all? No. There's this woman that comes, oh God, I can't remember her name. The character is like a political analyst. God, I can't believe I forgot her name. Jennifer Barkley. Jennifer Barkley. So I was going to get it. Come on. So she has this one scene where, you know, she comes in and she's like, you have an hour of my time, because it costs like $2,500 or whatever. And then like, she's like, and then it's like, she's like, all right, time's up. She's like, I have one more question. She's like, you sure you want to answer it? Because it's going to be double time. My time is valuable. I have to get out of here. And then she's like, no. So it was just this whole thing where it was like down to the like wire, like, I am worth this. You can't talk to me to get my expertise unless you pay me, you know, in this time frame. No, I don't look at it that way, although people have pointed that out to me. But if I had to put an hourly rate on my time, it would be very low, because I don't value myself in that way.
Yeah, but you're at this freedom point, right? So Dan Kennedy is super intent on like every dollar, every hour. And when he writes a book, he has a limited number of hours on the book because, you know, his day rate's $19,000 a day and everything fits within that framework. And he has 6 days to write the book. And at the end of the 6th day, if it ain't done, he just like finishes it and it's done, because that book can't cost him more than 6 days at this rate. And it's so overanalyzed. And I get how, it works for him in his way. But at the same time, what you're like, everything back to that lifestyle business idea of, I do what I like, I enjoy, you're letting go of things that, you know, don't bring joy into your life. You're analyzing, do I need to run 3 podcasts, 3 YouTube channels, 3 blogs?
No,
or can I really
I just mentioned that, like, that, you know, I don't like writing things down, because when I write things down, like, I'm not in the world. Like, I'm too busy analyzing and like figuring out. And I like optimization things, but like not for shitting. You know, it's like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I had 3 bowel movements today and they were like 10 minutes each. And so it's like, all right. And that's what this guy's doing. It's like every hour is like, it's like a fucking math problem, and he's like counting it. It's like, that's a terrible way to live. I mean, just in general, like, it's an opinion. But
well,
to me,
it
that's
goes
a
to the
terrible
budgeting.
way to
It's
live.
it's in the budget world. It's that whole side of the people who are kind of hijacking the fire movement, saying like, just stop buying your latte every day, and over the
Right.
course of the year, you'll get wealthy. And it's like, not really. And so
No,
you've
there's
decided, and it's another way of saying this is, if you get the big things right, the little stuff just falls into place.
Yeah.
And there's so many people like looking at all the little stuff, and they're trying to hyper optimize the little stuff, whereas it's like, you've done the big things right. You've built a business that has multiple brands around it, that is reaching the lives of millions of people a month on a good month with your SwimUniversity. Therefore, the byproduct of that is enough for you to be like, I am going to get the house with an acre in that town I want to be in, even though it's like whoop, up there. But like, and there's a trade-off, and you just understand that like, probably not going to get the Tesla, but you found your balance in your way. I think most people don't take time to think. And I think most people are just like reacting of like, the Tesla will make me feel good. I think I can make it happen. They approved me, make the Tesla happen. Boom. They just lock the brakes down the next level. And they're just impulse buying thing after thing after thing without thinking about like, okay, is this leading me closer to the proverbial finish line of freedom, of wealth, and that to me, wealth, I use the word wealth. Wealth to me means like, I completely own my time. And there's a point where the money, and that's where with the Koch brothers, or the brothers that you're talking about in that movie, it's like Dukes, they already own their time. They've got the private jet, they've got everything. Like, what is this? And there is a mind virus. And
what's driving you at this point? Like
totally. And so the early native populations looked at, when European settlers were coming across, there was a word for it. I don't remember the word. I think it started with a W, and it was a mind virus to accumulate more than one could consume in a lifetime. And they literally were like, these people have that virus. So it was a word they had of accumulating more than you could ever use in a lifetime. And I think it is 100% rampant in our society. And then the marketing plays to it from there. And Melanie and I, we really kind of like, look at it. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? What's the fulfillment? And your lifestyle post has us kind of like, why? Like, okay, so a rental property and cash flow, and that means it's an asset and not a liability. But like, we just got back here to Sedona, and I'm dealing with stupid shit from people. I've got like blinds, like this blind right here. One of them's a little fugged up, and somebody used our barbecuer, and they were slapping like the barbecuer grill scraper on my redwood decking drink. Like, there's this nasty muck there, and they broke the blood. Like, what are these people doing in here? So now that I'm back in my vacation home that was profitable, made 38 grand while I was gone, like, oh yeah, big victory. But now I'm fixing cleaning up after people, and I'm fixing like scratches in the dope ass hardwood floors, and I'm like, I ain't got no time for this. And it's that lifestyle. It's like, okay, so cash flow, and I got a vacation rental and my Airbnb stuff. Who fucking cares? Like, what do I do? Like, I don't want anything. Done. Cut it off. Back to, what do I want?
But that's the crux of it too. It's how, I mean, practicing, I don't know where it came from, but practicing this idea of self-awareness is everything. It's like, people look at me like that, they'll like, I left a software company just, a couple months ago. And even my partner was like, I get it. Like we both like are self-aware, and we both know what the other person needs and wants, because we've gone through it. He's the same guy that I do the podcast with. And we had a falling out because of like ego and like early days of like not really understanding each other or what we wanted, because we were both like in the hustle phase. And now that we're in the like twilight of the hustle phase, we were like, we're both going, I know what you want and need, and you clearly know what I want and need, which was like, I really dislike, I like the building of the thing, but I really hate the management of it all. And so that's like MoneyLab. It's like MoneyLab, I can sit down and I can focus and I can build a thing and I can put it out into the world. But if I have to maintain it, which is why I choose not to do a membership site, even though I thought about, I mean, everyone's like, why do I do a membership site? The money you can make. Yes, I could have MoneyLab, Pro, and you could sign up, and it's, $40 a month or whatever, and you get videos every week and
$49.99 for my Circle account.
Yeah, exactly. You could do that, and that makes sense, and it's a good product, and I'm sure it'd be great, except like, I'm like, but I never get done that. That's never over.
Yeah.
Right. Because if someone's paying me, right, if somebody pays me a monthly fee, I better be in the forums talking to them. I better be,
Dance monkey.
Exactly. But I thought about it like deeply. And I keep saying no to it because I know myself. And another thing I say no to is e-commerce. Everyone, when I started Roasty, why didn't you start a drop shipping business? Why don't you, even with SwimUniversity, when Amazon, cut everybody's commissions, just make your own products and sell them on your own site. Like, you have all this traffic. Why won't you do that? I think it's pretty obvious because it doesn't stop. It's never ending.
Yeah.
It's a business I have no interest in. And I have to say no to that. And it's a hard thing to say no to because it's money. But if you know thyself, right, then you know what's not going to work for you in the long run. And money's not the driver.
Well, it's like the question, at what cost, right? Like, you could do this, but at what cost? Like, sure, I could make more money doing that, but at what cost? And the cost, I think you realize, and where your self-awareness is like the cost is you're not going to be able to spend as much time in your homebrew. You're not going to be spending as much time on the ski lift, snowboarding, because all of a sudden you feel the pressures of all these demands and all this other bullshit.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, like the software company, on paper, it makes so much sense because you're like, oh, I can do this. I can build this tool and then it makes money every month. And it's just consistent MRR. What's really the hidden cost of it, and same with membership sites, is it looks great on paper. The hidden cost is that there's a endless maintenance thing. You're never going to stop working on it. It's always, to keep the engine moving, you have to keep greasing the wheels. You have to keep like everybody happy. And as soon as you take your hands off the wheel, like you're going to die. So the thing is like when you create something that, and that was the software thing. I realized that like once it was built, like once the website was good, the branding was done, the core software was working, people were using it. I'm like, when do we cash out? Like, when can we sell this to somebody else and like let them? Yeah, I'm done. I did my thing. Like, I want this now to pay me in perpetuity. I sat down, I did the work for a year, 2 years. I want to reap the benefits now, because I invested my time and energy. It's like, no, you're not done. You got to get into to Intercom and start answering people's questions, fixing bugs, updating the website, putting out blog posts. You have to start a media company now because you got to promote this thing. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like, I don't want this.
And you have a list of 78 things on people's wish list. And can you make it do this? And can you make all these one-off case scenarios? And you're either saying no or you're, and
then as the company,
like perpetual. So,
and as it grows, you got to hire people. And then I'm no longer being a creative person. I'm being a manager. And that's not my strong suit. And so like the interesting part about the business that I am sort of like, the whole lifestyle post is I decided once I moved into this house and like realized, it's like, what do I really, like when I do rap albums, when I put out these epic posts, when I do a video that's like, takes me 2 months to make, I am like, you can sit there and go like, this post was very important to me. This video is so fucking awesome. This rap album, that's amazing. And I can't argue with you. And I can't say, oh, thanks. No, I am also truly proud of those things. And that's not something I'm good at. I am not good at being proud of things, of the things that I've done. But those 3 examples are things that like, if you congratulate me, I will say thank you, because that shit was everything to me at the time of making it. That's what I want in my life. I want to spend a week or two, a month or two, a year or two making one thing in public and putting it out there and people going, yeah, that's the shit right there. That's endless. That's evergreen. That's true fucking evergreen shit. You know what I mean? And I think you're the perfect person that embodies this, which is like I'm always thinking, like back in the day when we started our website, it's like the website's the thing, but like that, like I need to make money. So like I focused more on the AdSense hacking than the content part, right? I focused more on how the website looked and how it felt and the color scheme rather than like the content and or like the hacky money side of things before, you know, the actual thing. And it wasn't until this is what I was doing. I was doing article spinning. I was writing shitty articles, basically what I was doing. And then I was listening to Pat Flynn's podcast way back when, and Corbett Barr came on, and he was running Think Traffic at the time, and that was the thing I was going after, was traffic. And I went on his website, and I was like, this looks awesome. This is an awesome looking website. And it was designed by Chase Reeves. And I was like, whoa. And I was reading the post, and I was like, my mind grapes were exploding because it was a completely different mindset than I had ever heard or, you know, he was basically saying, fuck SEO. Like, SEO really doesn't matter. What matters is helping people. Like, write a good article. Write a good article. And if you write a really good article, like, Google will find you. And this is back in like 2007, you know, or I think it was even 2008 or something like that. And I just remember going like, oh, that's novel. Write good stuff. You know, his mantra was write epic shit. And that was like, I was like, okay, I'm going to try that. And I decided to sit down and craft a post on pool algae. Like, I'm going to write the thing that everyone really wants to know, not a 300 word, you know, get it out of my, you know, head and, you know, just write with bad grammar and no images and just to put words on a page so that the robots can, you know, scan the words and I can rank. No, it was like, let me write this for, you know, Bob or Jane out in Austin who have a pool and they have an algae problem. And if they find this article, they're going to be like, thank you. Holy crap.
Yep.
You know, so I was able to tie in, like, I'm a graphic designer. Like, let me design some charts and graphics and like, and visualizations to help people understand like what algae is, how it appears, how chlorine kills it. Like, let me get into that. And then it was like, once I put that out there, I felt better as a person. Like, I felt good because I had put something out that I knew was truly good and helpful. And all of a sudden it was like #1 in Google and I didn't even try. And I was like, oh, because Google was getting smarter. And so I was like, I don't need to keep a spreadsheet of a bunch of articles that I'm spinning and sending to article directories to get backlinks to this thing. I could just make great shit. And that was what I liked doing. But it's harder. It's much harder. You know, it's like you got to sit there and you got to think about it.
Well, in one sense, it is harder in the short term, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm actually going to put out value. I'm actually going to create something epic. But if you think about it, the number of rewrites and respins and it's probably actually a shorter process to just go all in. And so a lot of people are like, well, how do I? So people who they're like, I'm not an expert. I haven't worked in a pool store. I haven't forever. It's like, go to your fucking library. Like, go sit down, go get 5 books on the topic, go through the 5 books on the topic, figure out, understand, do the research for them, and put together one research paper on that topic that's the absolute best. And that thing will live on. And you're notoriously, I'm pretty sure you're like anti-backlinks. Would that be a safe thing to say? Like,
No, I'm not anti
backlinks. You don't do outreach. Do you invest in them? Do you spend money on them? Do you do outreach to build them? Right. No. They just happen as a byproduct of that shift you just explained.
Of great,
because you wrote such a
right?
Of greatness. You wrote such a good post on algae that other people are like, well, I could explain it, or I could just put a link to that because he fucking nailed it.
Now I could, if I really felt the need to do this. It's just, again, this is something I hate, so I don't. I could pay somebody to do it, but I also hate managing, so I don't. I could write this. Like, I could write this article, or I could make this homebrewing video and get a VA or somebody to just email a bunch of homebrewers like, check out my video.
Dear sir, please, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Honestly, like, if, you know, I'm me and I've been in this industry for so long, I still get emails like that. Like, here, check out this infographic, check out this video, whatever. Like, would you, you know, and they might not even ask to put it on the blog, but just because they asked me and I don't know who they are, it could be great. But the way I found it was inorganic, and I have no patience and no time for it. And so because I don't like it, why would I output that? You know, same with like pop-ups. For the longest time, I'm like, man, pop-ups work. They collect email addresses. But I fucking hate them as a internet user. I hate banner ads. As an internet user, I despise them. They slow down my user experience. I hate it so much when I'm on a news site and I just have to scroll through these things and I accidentally click it and I'm getting like fucking mattress shit sent to me all the time. I hate it. So I cannot be, I'm morally a proponent of that. I could be like, oh, I hate it, but I do it. You know, it's like, that seems really bad. But it means that I'm not growing at the same rate as all my competitors. I'm just not willing to do that. I also think, though, I also think it's part of my longevity. It's what's keeping me sane, and I will outlast my competitors because they're so busy with these tactics and getting like, and as soon as Google's like, well, we don't like banner ads anymore, and we don't like pop-ups, and their websites tank, mine are still good because mine are organic and pure, right? And I really am doing it.
You thought about the user experience first. And
Always.
you thought about the user experience first, right? Your goal and your main focus is not the get money side of things. It stems from the realization of, if I create the absolute best content and the best user experience on swim or home brewing ever, like literally the best of the best of the best, and I make it load fast, it's clean, and it just really is that good, I'm going to win. And it might not be fast
forever,
and I might not make more money this week, but I will win forever. And on the long game, I will make 10 times more than little scammer boy who copies you for 7 days and then falls off.
You'll also get street cred, right? Like you will also get this, like MoneyLab is, my goal with MoneyLab as a website was I wanted people like you to read it. You know, I wanted peers to look at it as like, I don't read a lot of blog posts. I don't, like I'm not in the internet marketing game, but that guy I read, right? It's like, or like that. I like that thing. It's like a comedian's comedian. It's like, they may not make a lot of money, but man, they respect it. And to me, that was worth more than money. It's just, not that I need respect. I don't need people to like praise me for my work or anything. Maybe I do. But
we all do.
It feels better to put out something that my friends, like my colleagues, my peers will text me about and be like, that shit was great. I'm like, thank you. Like I don't need to hear it from like the person who just found my site yesterday who like is just getting started. Like that feels fine, but it's not the same as like, and I don't get this way, which is like when I was doing personal finance, like so many people would email in and go like, oh my God, you've changed my life. You changed my life. You changed my life. And I'm like, I'm glad, but I don't want to sound like a dick because it's not a thing, but it's like, it doesn't give me the dopamine. It doesn't like, I'm glad that's happening. I'm glad that's the byproduct of like, what I'm doing, but I really want to hear it from like Dave Ramsey. He's like, you know what? I owned a $4 million mansion and I had to give it up because I heard your podcast and boy, that was so great. And like, I'd be like, all right, now, okay. If I can affect somebody like him who is desensitized to it, then I'm reaching, it's like I'm reaching so many more people, So that's kind of my, same with the homebrewing site. Like I want other homebrewers to be like, that's the motherfucker right there. Like he's so cool.
Well, just like
it's Dave Chappelle.
Reach out to that
so
podcast.
Fucking cool.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be
and that's
him.
with that podcast that you were just on to promote your video with the podcasters. Like you're getting industry credibility, and everyone wants that in some sense. But like you've gone through, and it's not even just the BrewCabin 1.0 website. It's not the video that you did. It all ties all the way back to the experiences that you've had through the swim site, right? Through SwimUniversity, because it was all that learning. It was all those bits and pieces. It was all of the learning curves and the stumblings that you had then that got you to build this to where it is now, to the philosophy that works now, to where boom. And I will say that like on the backlink, you're like, oh, I don't do that. But like in some senses, theoretically, that podcast you were just on is a great backlink. And like full disclosure, so I learned about your websites through a Reddit thread. There's a few subreddits that I'm on that I just follow where a bunch of beginners are trying, and I actually contribute as me, and I actually like try to give them encouragement. And like it's I don't know, it's kind of a glutton for punishment. But anyways, I found a list of affiliate sites and I was doing a review of affiliate sites. So I reviewed one of your affiliate sites on it, and you popped in the comments and I'm like, oh God, like the actual dude who made the site just kind of like, uh-oh. And then I started following you on Twitter and I realized you had podcasts, and it was like, oh, that'd be pretty cool if we could eventually chop on a podcast, and boy, that'd be a great backlink for me. And literally my entire backlink strategy has been find people who have like our audience peer level, and then like go engage and meet and actually be like real on Twitter instead of marketing robot, and eventually be a podcast guest and and it's kind of like, so is that a backlinking strategy, or is that like a networking strategy, or is that just being a good person? Like,
so I don't know. It's I think what I just realized in all of that was the secret to my backlink strategy is that my target audience is my peers who have the same blogs.
Yes.
So
100%.
I'm not realizing it until just now, but like so when I did the home brewing video and I threw a random country song in the middle of it, a genre of music I do not listen to and do not like, in my head, I'm like, this is so silly. This is so insane. But it's so over the top. The rap album thing, it's so like, actually the first thing I ever did that I noticed this phenomenon was when I did a rap video for Pool Care. And when I was writing, I was like, okay, and I used to call this passion mashing, which is like this idea where I'm good at the internet. Like, you know, I have a website, SwimUniversity. But when I was in high school, I used to do like these parody rap albums because I do music production because that's, you know, my background. And I was like, well, I'm good at that. And I asked at this website. So let me just like see what happens if I like marry these two things together, like what would come out. And, you know, to my friends, they were like, this is this video is the perfect amalgamation of you. If I ever had to explain you to anybody else, it's like, yeah, that's Matt. That's exactly who he is as a person, is this one video. And it was because it took like two of my things that I'm good at and I put them together. Well, what happened in that was it went viral, but only in the industry. Like, it wasn't like people who owned swimming pools were like, this is a great video. No, it was like every pool manufacturer who's in the pool industry was like, holy shit, like somebody made a song about pool care and it's not a piece of shit. Like, it's not bad. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's catchy as all heck. Like, it's so like I worked really hard to make it as like the seriousness in which I took making that song was the silliness, right? It was like, that makes me laugh more than anything. When you take something that is so inherently stupid, but you take it so seriously, there's so much gold there. So I put that out and I got so many backlinks from that, from reputable companies who were linking to my website. Like Matt from SwimUniversity.com, backlink, made this fucking video. Holy shit.
Yep.
That was it. That was everything.
Those links. Yep.
Nope. And like, same with like, I tried to do it again for Listen Money Matters. And that one, so I got on like Quartz, I got on The Guardian, like I got on a couple like big sites, some big backlinks, but that song almost was too serious. Like I didn't, like the video wasn't funny and the actual wording, like the actual rap itself, like wasn't actually funny. It was like, people were just like, this is good. This is a good song. You know, and I'm like, oh shit.
Gotcha.
You know, like that's not what I was going for.
It didn't have that next level thing.
Same with the rap album. The rap album didn't really do well because like none of the songs are funny. Like they're just all seriously about entrepreneurship. So like, but to me, like those pieces that I've done in my life are, I like the best thing I've ever done in my life is the rap album, like work wise, because like that is an impressive to me. I impressed myself with that. Like I can't believe I did that.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
And I might say the same thing about the home brewery thing. Like I'm impressed that I got it done in 40 days because I can't believe I have this thing that I didn't have a month ago. And in the video, when I was doing the home brewing, you know, the actual brewery video, it was the same thing. I'm like, what can I do to make this video not feel like, well, what happened was like when I was doing that video, and this is by the way, like the only reason I'm able to do this is because I have the mental space to think about it, right? It was like, this was my focus. Like, I was creating content. Like, that blog post ranks #1 because it's like 6,000 words because I documented everything. I had time to like film and edit the video, but when I first went out to do that video, my goal was to just capture moments, because my friend was like, "Hey, you're doing this pretty epic thing. Like, you should document this. You know, kind of like what you do on MoneyLab." And I'm like, "Yes, that was my plan all along." So I was just going out with my camera and just filming like when things would happen, or like just my thoughts. So I have like so much footage. And then I started looking at, how do I put this together into like the story of this whole thing coming together? And unfortunately, this is what happens to a lot of creators, is you do your research. So who do you look up? You look up, like, you go on YouTube, you find Casey Neistat, you find Peter McKinnon, you find other vloggers who all do the same type of content. It's all Casey Neistat, you know, lo-fi, cut to montage, whatever. So in my head, I'm like, I was watching these and going like, I don't like this content personally. Like, I think this is it's not timeless. It feels very like weird. And so I wanted to mix it up a bit. And so like, it looks vloggy. It has like that vlog style because that's what I was filming at the time. I didn't put anything on a tripod. Like, I just held it because I had to do things in the moment. But I'm like, I don't want this to, it does feel like a vlog at times, but I didn't want it to feel that way throughout the entire video. So like, hence in the middle of it, there's like weird scenes that are definitely not vlog related. And that was a conscious choice to try to do something, try to create a new like way to do a vlog where you really kind of fucking try instead of like, and you really tried to actually tell a story. And that meant like, I have probably like 6 hours of footage that I cut down to 15 minutes because it's just me talking on camera and it's so boring. Like, no one wants to hear me just like talk. I need to show what happened. And there was like things like, do I need to have a whole 5-minute section on putting up drywall and my thoughts about it? No, I need a picture. Like, it's just like, and anyway, so like, but I sat down and like made this video, but the fact that I put a music video in the center and I did this whole bit with the plumber, which is not even real, and like all these little Easter eggs to myself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's a whole scene where
you're like, oh, I can't show you, so I'm gonna just put it in my pocket, and you recorded the audio. And here's what the voice does in it.
So the way that came,
fantastic. I saw
so
that
the way
and I
that
was
came
like,
about,
this is so good.
Yeah. All right. So the way that came about was, I had this song that I had written, and I was like, I definitely want to put this song in there because it's so ridiculous. Like, I don't know why I thought of it. I don't know where it came from.
What's the name of the song? Can't
it's
put
called
the pipes
Pipes.
on the walls.
It's just called Pipes, but it's like, yeah, the idea is like, the plumber came over. What really happened was the plumber came over. I wanted to put the pipes in the wall for the sink, and he said, because it's a thin wall and it's an outside wall, we can't do that. So the pipes are going to be exposed. So you'll have to put a soffit in or something, or we just have to expose pipes. And that's not something I had planned in the designing of it or anything. So I was super dejected, but I was like, there's nothing else we can really do here. And so like, I thought that would be a good turning point in like the whole video. And I came up with like, what if, I don't know why. I was like, what if you know what it's from? I wanted a break. If you've ever seen the movie Team America, where with the puppets. Yeah. So he's like, where he goes, they have this whole thing about freedom isn't free. And there's this whole country song that happens and it's hysterical. And I'm like, I thought of that. And I'm like, I want that. So I was like, I want this like break in the vlog video where it's just like, what are we watching? This is insane. And so to set up the video, the plumber had already came and done all the work and stuff. So to set up the video, I was like, well, what I'll do is I'll have my friend come over and I'll pretend like I'm filming a video with my friend over, and I'll put the phone in my pocket like I'm privately filming this plumber, and it'll be his voice, and we'll have this conversation about, hey, I can't put the pipes in the wall, and then it'll break into the song. Well, this is COVID, so like people just can't come over and do that, and it was like taking me a long time and to like schedule him to come over, and then I'd have to like write out the script, and we'd have to read it and all that stuff. And Steph was like, well, why don't you just like do a marbled, you know, like people who are like, they need their identities hidden and they have that voice, and then you just do it. And I was like, oh, I could do that right now. So I could grab my phone, like went outside and like faked it. So I was like, all right, the plumber's here. I'm going to go into the garage. I put the phone in my pocket, and then I just had a conversation with myself. Right. And then what I did was I took the parts where and I didn't change my voice. I didn't go like, oh, I'm a plumber, blah, blah, blah. Hey, my name is Matt. But, you know, I didn't change my voice. I just had a conversation back and forth, and all of the sentences that were the plumber, I just isolated those, and then I, you know, did a pitch deepening
Audio effect.
But then I took my parts and kept them normal, but then kind of overlapped them, so it would be impossible for you to detect that I'm doing it because I'm talking over myself. So it was like this little trick, and it just worked. And it was funny. It was like, and then the whole thing on screen came from Popstar, where they had this whole scene with like the bees attacking, and it's like this. And then so I had that idea where I'm like, oh, you can actually create an entire scene where you don't see anybody, you just have words on screen. Like that's okay to do because somebody's already done it, right. You know. So it was like taking cues from these other comedies and sort of like doing my own version of it. So yeah, it was all faked.
I really
and a lot
like
of it's
this
faked.
idea. I really. No, I mean it's cool because what you're doing is you're operating within the theory of constraints, right? Like, so the COVID thing that's going on, you had a timeline that you were trying to get through. Like, ultimately, you just wanted to build your freaking brewery, right? You don't want to necessarily like dock, but like, I might as well do it since I'm doing it because it's epic. But this awareness that you have, that you kind of came to, that you were like, I want to make this for my peers, right? Like, yes, new brewers will find this, but new brewers are like, how do I make some bathtub buck, right? Like, what's the carboy in the bucket kit that I'm going to get? That's all they care about.
Yeah.
And this is really for people who they've been brewing. They've mastered a couple things, and they're literally building a shed out back, and they want to deck out a room, or they're going to build a metal building, and they're committing to that next level. And you're creating content for the peers, and that is the same thing that you kind of did when you made the goofy song in that world. And it's like, by doing this, you probably don't even realize, but like, you've created such a moat around your business, right? So people copy your content all the time. People copy my content all the time. It's sad to see just the number of terrible attempts to literally just swipe our emails and our everything. But like, it's those backlinks that you got from that one video that you did that actually went viral, that actually got links from Jacuzzi and from the real brands and manufacturers. No one can ever replicate that. Like, no one can ever replicate that. And it was you synthesizing, taking random things and just mashing them up with the goal of, I'm not just going to put something out that's helpful, but like my peers, my industry is going to be like, what the fuck did this guy just drop?
Like, that was my whole mindset, was like, I wanted to raise the bar. And the first thing that I wanted to drop on my channel was like, oh, this is what we're going to, like, this is the kind of content we're going to expect. Point. So now, unfortunately, like, I have this video of me building an RO system that I did with my GoPro on my head, and it's pretty normal. It's in depth, but I'm like, how do I elevate? Now I have to, like, I can't just make a how-to video. It has to be a how-to video with some entertainment value to it. And so, like, what is that thing now? And it's fun because I'm sitting there like, I'm going to drop this RO video that's going to be for a very small select group of people, but the people who find it, it's like that whole, you know, over deliver, you know, mentality of like, if you can over deliver, like, you've made a fan for life. Like, people are going to see that video and go like, wait, yeah, I want more of this. This is excellent. And then everyone else is going to, like, it's going to make everyone else not look bad. I don't want to make anybody look bad, but it does make everyone else's content seem inferior. If somebody who is just one person with like an iPhone can make something this epic looking and sounding and feeling, then and that's the thing. Like, I've always tried to figure this out, and I have yet to do it. And hopefully one day I will. But I'm always trying to shove the story circle, like the hero's journey, into how-to posts. I want how-to posts I want to elevate it to this level of like, oh my God, I feel something. Like, this is how to install a garage door opener, but I have a feel at the end of it. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness.
Right? It's kind of, and that was like kind of my goal with the lifestyle manifesto, was like, I didn't want you to just walk away from that going like, oh, cool. Like, it's like just a blog post of like how he's doing, or a blog post of like, you know, like how to live a certain type of lifestyle. I wanted you to come away with that, like, fuck, like that was it. I mean, it starts heavy, it ends light, kind of heavy, but it's like, yeah, it has like a bookend to it. I tend to take, and the thing I do with MoneyLab a lot that people don't see is when even if I write like a post where I'm like documenting a process, or I do a post on like, you know, tips or whatever I do, I usually sit on it. I run it by Steph, and I kind of ask her to look at it from a story perspective. Like, you know, like I might have told things out of order, or like, you know, this section is going to make someone feel something, and then it's going to lead into this, and then it's going to go here, and then we may move around paragraphs or completely omit things, or then sometimes she'll give me notes like, hey, you need to add some context as to why you're talking about this thing, because this makes no sense. So like and then she'll give me kind of direction, like talk about that time, like tell this story, and then it'll lead better into this part. And so we go back and forth, and I'll have her look at it a few times. You know, after I like spill, I'll do my edits. She'll come in, kind of give it more of a, you know, emotional, like, you know, edit. And then I'll come back in and like, we'll kind of just work it together. And it just takes a while. Like that post is only, I think, like 1,400 words. It started as like 5,000. And then it was just like, all right, like, you know, I talked a lot about my brother, which is like, you know, a very dark subject, but and I'm like, what do people need to know? Like a lot of this is like, you don't need to really know this, and it's really not helping. It's just making this sadder. And so it's like, pull that out, maybe put, you know, maybe just touch this slightly, but put more about this in here, because this is what people really want to know. And this is what's going to make people like have a reaction. That's shit I don't think people really think about, but I want to apply that same thing to how-to articles. And I just haven't figured it out without it being cheesy, but I have like some open notebooks of like how to do it. Cause it's like, you have to, you know, it's like, how do you get a how-to article to make someone change halfway through? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So
it's really difficult.
And the levels of meta that you guys, I really appreciate understanding the awareness and the levels of awareness that you bring to each piece of content. I think it's so helpful for the listeners, because there is still that whole like shotgun SEO approach, just crank out the post, 1,500. It's just not 500 words now. It's 1,500 words and like 1,700 words and go. And it's like, okay, so I'll be perfectly honest with you. Like, you're probably going to get your site indexed with that path. You're probably going to get Google crawling you from that path. If you reach out and get some backlinks, you'll probably gain some rankings and some traffic with that path. But someone who takes what I'm going to call the Matt Giovanisci like approach to it, of operating at that next magnitude of order higher, of like, how do I create emotional engagement? How do I really grab somebody and they really go meticulous through that? You are going to blow them away all day, every day. And it's a luxury, because you've gone through the ranks. And I think everyone starts at like, how do I write a post? How do I find a keyword? How do I optimize it? Like basic core, like functionality. But you're now the quarterback in the pocket, who you have the same amount of time as a high school quarterback in the pocket, but you're a pro, and it's like time slows down for you. And in that moment, your field awareness, your awareness of the players, your awareness of your space, you're making hundreds more nuanced decisions in that moment than what your competitors are doing. And that's always going to rise to the top. And that's the future of SEO of the game. And it's kind of a fuck SEO type idea. And on that post specifically, that lifestyle, a little bit on that, because you're still optimizing it. You're not going to look at your H2s. You're not going to look at keyword phrases, but there's that another level of awareness of like, I'm doing that, but I'm also playing this game of hit the emotional levels, but not too much, not overdo it. I don't want people to get like, it needs to compel them, to help them understand what's going on. But then we need to get into the point, because there is a point here beyond the sad story. Well, the and that post for your feedback, like just real quick, like that post has got me and Melanie thinking about like, our business is so successful at this point. This YouTube channel is so successful. Why am I doing it? when is enough? Where am I going? And these types of questions are very valuable for me. Where is my end post? Like, how much do I really need cash flow? And man, if I get rid of the debt off of, if I release the brakes on my rental property down there, that even though it's cash flowing, but if I just release it, what does that do to my flywheel over here? And so like it worked is essentially what I'm saying. And I don't read very many posts in the lifestyle business type thing that do anything.
You've read it
I
all.
don't finish most of them. I'm like, I 100% all of it. And that's what's future-proofing you. And it's fun to hear now. You're like, okay, so how to post on RO, and internally I'm like, tell Matt just to fucking publish the video. It's a RO video and just get it done and get on next. Because on YouTube, you can have different shows, right? Here's my Bob Vila how-to. He doesn't have a fucking personality, but he's going to show you how to redo your back deck. But you as a creator, no, like this is where you're going to keep chiseling away at this problem, this new challenge of like, how do I make mundane things engaging and next level? And the RO video might not be, you might not dial it all in on this one, but when you get that, it's a practice shot, it's an attempt. And when you get it figured out, you're unlocking this new way of doing what I've kind of been doing, right? My 630 videos on this channel. And like my best videos are the videos that I talk till my throat hurts. I've dropped an hour 20 of rapid fire intense things that you would find in a $500 course. And I just dropped it in one video and people watch it and they're blown the fuck away. And guess what? That's my moat. Nobody, like, go ahead, copy me, give it a shot if you can. Most people are trying to sell that stuff. And here I am just bomb dropping it.
It's a great
that's
strategy.
The next level, man. That's where this game is these days. Yeah. Like it's an undeniably good strategy because the people who find you fall in love with you faster. The trust goes up massively. YouTube looks at these little data points of the view through, the shares, the click-through rate, etc. And then you get your peers linking to it. It becomes so shareable, right? Like I retweeted that, but I shared your lifestyle design post because it says a lot of what I need to think about, but what I feel. And we even talked before I knew that story about the perils of social media and some of the depression things that are going on in the world. It was like, oh my gosh, it made it shareable for me as another creator. You creating shareable content for your peers is, God, that's so far superior. And it takes more time to create that kind of content, but then your peers become the marketers and you might pop on a podcast with people you want to be on anyways, but like, that's just fun. Like that's, it's like a strategy wrapped up in there. And the other thing that I want to observe that I think you're really good at is your ability to say no. And your awareness to think about things. And I think you really are like, should I say no to this? Like, I don't know if you think that thought particularly.
It took a long time. I still not, I'm definitely better at it than I was even like a month ago. But yeah, that's a thing I constantly have to work on.
I think we all do, because I think it's people who learn how to do WordPress. All of a sudden you're like, I can make 10 websites. No, because if you don't focus on one long enough, you ain't never going to get nowhere.
Right.
And in life, it's like, I could buy the Tesla. Like I could afford it. No, that's going to actually push you 3 years away from retiring early.
Right.
Well,
what do we think?
I don't know. I think we did it. Is there anything else? Have we beat this dead horse to,
I think we can do this again.
We came and accomplished.
I think we could.
Rude not to.
I think we do like we could do like a very tactile like thing where we're like, all right, let's do an authority site start to finish. Like, what are we doing now that like all these years of like having and it's something I definitely want to think about. It's like everyone's like, how did you build SwimUniversity? I'm like, okay, well I fucked up for 15 years, and if I had to build it over again and I only had a year to get it done, like this is exactly what I would do. Like this is exactly what I'd focus on.
Okay.
Maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Yeah, let's try it. And maybe we could, if it comes out to an outline, maybe I could turn it into an ebook because I need a new lead magnet anyways.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, Matt Giovanisci, where do people find you? Where are you most active and connected for people who want to say thanks?
MoneyLab.co and Matt Giovanisci on Twitter is like kind of where I live all the time. Yeah, boom. Twitter. That's my social media.
I'll have links to the cool stuff. Yeah, same
Cool.
here. And that's where we've connected. I'll have links to the cool stuff you've
Yeah.
done down below. I appreciate you, my man. And until
too,
we meet
man.
again, be well. Go create awesome shareable stuff for your audience.
Will do. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.